Chapter 57, Golden Spring Pool. Chapter 57, Golden Spring Pool. Allbeast Mountain Range, deep in the forest. In a remote thicket, a rabbit was chewing on tender juicy grass. Suddenly, the rabbit straightened its ears and bolted. A moment later, a black hand extended out from the ground, followed by the slow crawl of the little beggar. But as she was crawling, she was flung out with a loud sound, as if a palm had slapped her. "Get out already!" Fan scowled and came out after the beggar flew. He was just as filthy as the beggar and looked as if he had crawled through a cramped coal mine. The tunnel was winding and almost half a mile long. It was also damp and smelled of rot. He couldn't understand for the life of him what was so great about playing in this place as kids. Xuaningxiang got on her feet, rubbed her rear and then glared at him. "You're the worst. I show you the way and this is my thanks." "Yes, I'm a scoundrel." Fan didn't argue with her and had his eyes peeled, scanning the surrounding as he heard the seldom roar of spiritual beasts. He now knew that this was indeed Allbeast Mountain Range. Looking at his filthy appearance, he shook his head and turned to Xuaningxiang. "Hey, is there any river nearby?" Rolling her eyes, Xuaningxiang began walking. "Follow me." Fan smiled and followed her. 15 minutes later, the sound of water reached their ears. He perked up and sped. His eyes were soon rewarded with the sight of a wide river flowing with clear water and small fishes. With a shout, Fan leapt in despite a female's presence. His clothes then flew out. Xuaningxiang whipped her body around in shame and snapped, "You rogue, what are you doing? What do you think, bathing?" Fan snorted as he bathed with no regard to her presence. "I'll get out after I finish." "Do what you want. If you wish, we can bathe together, I don't mind." "Damn you, who wants to bathe with you?" Xuaningxiang didn't turn around, only mumbled with irritation, "Shameless." Fan heard her loud and clear though. If demonic cultivators cared about reputation, what are righteous cultivators then? A quarter of an hour later, Fan came out of the river and put on a new robe from his ring. He patted Xuaningxiang's shoulder. "Let's go, where is the diamond sand going to appear?" Xuaningxiang was a bit nervous seeing Fan wanted to leave. She stood there in hesitation and was too embarrassed to speak. Fan raised an eyebrow. "What? Show the way. Didn't we have a deal?" But, Xuaningxiang muttered shyly, "I haven't washed yet." Fan's eyebrow twitched and he exposed an enigmatic smile. "I told you to wash but you refused. Since you haven't then that's that. I won't avoid you either way." But. Xuaningxiang was even more embarrassed now. She put on a disguise to run away from home. But she was a girl, and girls loved beauty, so how could she allow herself to stay dirty? Fan knew this too, but he was just teasing the hell out of her. "Who told her to deceive me?" Xuaningxiang was swaying from one foot to the other but didn't speak. But when she caught Fan's faint smile she knew he was teasing her. Pissed, she threw her hat in his face and walked to the river. But after a few steps, she turned to warn Fan, "Why you better not peek." Fan mocked as he left, "I'm not interested in unripe fruits." "Unripe?" Xuaningxiang was startled, then looked down at her chest and pushed it out unconvinced. "Humph, where am I unripe?" But Fan had already disappeared among the trees. Xuaningxiang pouted and returned to the river with a gloomy heart. Half an hour later, Fan was laying carefree on a bush, holding a straw in his mouth and contemplating his next course of action. The bushes around him moved at that moment and Fan looked over with a smile. "Oh, you're finally done. Little miss, can we go now?" "Why yeah." With a shy reply, the bushes were pushed aside. A white-clothed delicate girl slowly walked out. She wasn't gorgeous, but she had a lively air about her. She was like a bouquet of fresh and pure flowers. Even Fan was startled by her image. He didn't think that the dirty little beggar from before would transform into a gentle swan. Xuaningxiang reddened a bit from his constant staring. She coughed and Zhuo Fan smiled embarrassingly. Lady Shui, please lead the way. Changing his mannerism after encountering a bell, Zhuo Fan started to despise himself a bit, since when have I become so shameless? Yet the end result was that he found it refreshing walking side by side with a bell. 2 hours later, Xuaningxiang brought him to a hilltop. Zhuo Fan was puzzled, since the diamond sand is coming out, there should be plenty of people around. Why is it deserted? Xuaningxiang shook her head and rolled her eyes. Brother Zhuo, I thought you were smart. How come you are so stupid all of a sudden? Zhuo Fan watched her skeptically. If we go in right now, we will be caught. That is why I led you here. Xuaningxiang pulled Zhuo Fan's hand and went higher up the hill and pointed, that is the place where the diamond sand will erupt. Looking over, Zhuo Fan saw many figures, 50 in number, defending a pond. The pond seemed to be connected to a hot spring as it was bubbling. In the center, on a stone rising from the water, sat a gray-robed white-haired elder with his eyes closed. The air was warm around him, but the steam from the hot spring vanished the closer it got to him. So much so that not even his hair was wet. Such deep cultivation. Is he a profound heaven expert? Zhuo Fan frowned in panic. Suddenly, that elder snapped his eyes open and looked in Zhuo Fan's direction. His eyes were sharp and landed like lightning on his position. Get down. Zhuo Fan pulled Xuaningxiang to lie on a rock as cold sweat ran all over his body, such a sharp instinct, he is a profound heaven expert for sure. Correct. Xuaningxiang nodded, he is Hell Valley's elder overseeing Blue Expanse City for the past dozen years. Last month he found that the Golden Spring Pool released a lot of diamond sand and has stood watch here ever since. The 50 people around him are also bone tempering experts. Zhuo Fan nodded. Before diamond sand erupted, it would cause the flowing gold tide. But the flowing gold tide would only contain trace amounts of diamond sand. But 3 months from then, the diamond sand would erupt for sure. To get all the diamond sand before others, they placed guards. But who is to say the diamond sand would erupt from here? Zhuo Fan frowned as he thought. With his power, he had no hope of stealing the diamond sand, unless... His eyes flashed and pulled Xuaningxiang off the hilltop. What, you have a way? Seeing Zhuo Fan confident, Xuaningxiang was startled. She was already shocked that he could beat her family, but could he also have the power to win against a profound heaven cultivator and a team of bone-tempering experts? Zhuo Fan shook his head, if you can't beat them, outwit them. Let's go, I want you to find a little pet for me. Xuaningxiang was puzzled. In the Golden Spring Pool, the elder's eyes were filled with confusion, did I sensed wrongly? At the same time, in Blue Expanse City, Shui Wanlong took Shui Lin's dirty figure home. In the main hall of the Shui clan sat a wizened old man in the seat of honor, watching the two. Then he suddenly jumped to his feet. How was it? Did you bring Ninger? Did you deal with the culprit that harmed Ganger? Sighing, Shui Wanlong shook his head, Dad, I let them go. That kid is not bad, so I entrusted Ninger to him. As for him injuring Ganger, he did not know any better. As long as he takes care of Ninger, I do not mind it. What, that man is Ninger's, the old man spouted in shock. Nodding, Shui Wanlong said, that kid said Ninger was his. Ninger was also willing, so we can assume so. Fool. The old man slapped the table with a howl, Wanlong, no matter who the kid is, even if you disregard what he did to Ganger, Ninger can never ever be taken away. You know that if she leaves, our Shui clan. Even though he was angry, his eyes revealed sadness. Shui Wanlong looked at his father with firm eyes as he said, Dad, let Ninger go. I will take full responsibility. You take shit. Can you keep the young and old safe? The old man roared, Wanlong, I know you love your daughter, but you think I don't. But Shui clan. Sighing, the old man's face hardened, where did they go? Shui Wanlong was vexed, but still spoke as he closed his eyes, all beast mountain range. Whoosh! In an instant, the old man vanished. Chapter 58, Mystery Guy. Chapter 58, Mystery Guy. Zhuo Fan and Xuaningxiang were searching through bushes in all beast mountain range. Xuaningxiang was unsettled, not knowing where he was going with this. Zhuo Fan suddenly shouted in glee and held out something dirty. Found it. Xuaningxiang blinked in curiosity at the thing. What is it? What does it do? Sweet potato. Zhuo Fan gave a vague smile and continued, the one thing that first-level spiritual beast burrowing mouse likes the most. Xuaningxiang's eyes flashed and yelled, great plan, you want to use a burrowing mouse to make a tunnel and steal the diamond sand. The burrowing mouse didn't know how to fight and even a Foundation establishment cultivator could capture it easily. But its burrowing skill was second to none. Just one of these critters could dig through a 1,000-mile-long mountain range in an hour. Zhuo Fan didn't reply and showed a faint smile. Xuaningxiang felt even more suspicious now. No one seemed to be able to unravel the insidious mind of Zhuo Fan. A moment later, Zhuo Fan took Xuaningxiang far away from the golden spring pool and made a fire in which he threw the sweet potato. Soon, a sweet aroma wafted for 100 miles. Many spiritual beasts raised their heads and began searching for the source. Zhuo Fan took Xuaningxiang to lay in ambush close by, their eyes fixed on the fire. The bushes rustled and many spiritual beasts, big and small, approached the fire. They prodded the black lumps in the fire, wanting to find out from where the sweet smell came from, to no avail. Zhuo Fan secretly laughed and smiled at Xuaningxiang. In fact, the two took the cooked sweet potato long ago, they only left it inside enough to release its sweet smell and attract the burrowing mouse. If not, the other spiritual beasts would have taken it away and ruined their plan. More and more spiritual beasts came and searched, but found nothing. However, the soil next to the fire moved as it bulged outwards to no more than a fist in size. Zhuo Fan stood up slowly and got ready. Suddenly, the bulge of dirt broke away. A creature with a black mouth on its tiny head came out. It roamed around the fire a few times and sniffed. Now! Zhuo Fan screamed in his mind as he shot for the fire. The spiritual beasts, which gathered around the fire, were only at first and second level, ran away at the sudden noise. Only the burrowing mouse was oblivious to what was happening, but its intuition as a spiritual beast gave it a bit of insight that danger was looming. It immediately started moving its claw, wanting to burrow. But it was too late. Zhuo Fan already flashed before it and grabbed its tail. The burrowing mouse struggled for its life in panic. But there was no escape from the demonic palm of Zhuo Fan. He, buddy, you wanna run? With a manic grin, Zhuo Fan grabbed the critter's frail body and squeezed. It screeched in pain and flailed its claws. Xuaningxiang couldn't take it anymore and took the poor thing close to her chest. She patted it and threw Zhuo Fan an evil eye. How can you be so cruel? What if you hurt it? Humph, spiritual beasts don't get bruised easily. Zhuo Fan snorted, we need to hurry and tame it or we won't get another chance. But you don't need to be such a boor about it. My clan had raised some small spiritual beasts before and even if they were wild they still listened to me. Xuaningxiang comforted the poor critter with a sweet smile, isn't that right, little one? The burrowing mouse seemed to understand and nodded, then glared at Zhuo Fan. Curses, buddy, you're pushing it here. Zhuo Fan raged inside, itching to get his hand on the prick. But it was impossible, not with Xuaningxiang guarding it like a tigress. But then an idea struck him and his manic grin returned. The burrowing mouse shivered at the sight of him and hid in Xuaningxiang's chest. What are you trying to do? Xuaningxiang warned Zhuo Fan as she stepped back. His face flipped to a gentle smile as a gourd appeared on his palm. It's all right. I won't harm the little one. I only wanted to swallow something. Then he took out a blood-red worm from the gourd. It was the demonic creature he had raised with great care, frigid pool bloodworm. Any creature that ingested it would have no choice but to listen to his commands, or the blood curse would claim their lives. If not for time being an issue, he wouldn't have wanted to waste a bloodworm on a first-level spiritual beast. What is that? So disgusting. Xuaningxiang frowned and took another step back. The burrowing mouse also sensed the danger and hid in her chest. Zhuofan was dead serious. We have two ways we can tame the little guy fast. Either let me train it for a day, or he eats this. Xuaningxiang saw Zhuofan's face and she knew if she refused, he'd use force. Helpless, Xuaningxiang took the burrowing mouse out and patted its head. Little one, it's better if you eat it. Although it's a tad disgusting, it's better than landing in that guy's hands. Xuaningxiang said as she walked towards Zhuofan. With a sinister smile, Zhuofan inched the bloodworm close to the burrowing mouse's mouth. The critter struggled, but it was of no use. The bloodworm was about to enter its mouth. At that moment, however, a whoosh was heard. Zhuofan pushed Xuaningxiang away as he moved back himself. Watch out. A cold light passed between them. The freezing ray almost touched Zhuofan's fingers as it cut the wiggling bloodworm clean in half. He was aware of the killing intent the ray contained. Zhuofan turned to see a tall youth not 10 meters away. He looked to be 20 years old and had a handsome visage. His eyes flashed with coldness, like a pair of sharp blades, at the two of them. The burrowing mouse shrieked a few times and ran from Xuaningxiang's hands and climbed up his body to his shoulder. It has a master. Zhuofan scowled. The youth snorted at the two. You both got some nerve eyeing my spirit animal. Sorry, it wasn't on purpose. Zhuofan stopped Xuaningxiang's explanation with a wave and pushed her behind him. It doesn't matter if it has a master or not. We need it today. Ha ha ha, big words. The youth sneered. One insect is in the 5th layer of qi condensation, while the other in the 4th. Yet you still want to tame what is mine. Fine, guess I will have to end you. Humph, we will see about that. Sneering, Zhuofan rushed at the youth as Savage Moon flashed in his hand. 3rd grade demonic treasure. Raising an eyebrow, the youth lost the contempt he had before. This demonic treasure was a threat to his life, and in all his teachings he received, one needed to go all out regardless of the enemy. His eyes gleamed as he dashed at Zhuofan, his hand flashed and it now held a long sword. In an instant, the world seemed to freeze over. The sky and the earth seemed to vanish as flickering lights spewed from the sword. Empty net. Whoosh! Zhuofan suddenly slowed down amid his charge. Even his surroundings were sluggish while the only thing unaffected was the long sword. Profound ranked martial art, 7th layer of bone tempering stage, and 4th grade spiritual weapon. Squinting, Zhuofan started to take this seriously. This youth wasn't average. It was hard enough reaching such cultivation at his age, but he had also grasped a profound ranked martial art and used a 4th grade spiritual weapon. In the Tianyu Empire, rare were those like him even in the 7 noble houses. And exactly that was the answer. This man could be a core disciple of the 7 noble houses, perhaps even an inheritor. Today Zhuofan offended him and tomorrow trouble would come knocking. The only choice was to kill him. In an instant, Zhuofan's eyes exploded with killing intent. The youth was startled. Am I not the one holding the advantage? Why is this kid releasing such thick killing intent? Does he think he can actually kill me? The next moment, however, Zhuofan's action left him pale. Despite knowing that he was slowed down, Zhuofan only took a step and turned into 5 images of himself. Sneering, the youth grinned. Think you can act tough with such a base-level killing move? The youth's sword turned into 5 and struck each figure down. But at that moment, Zhuofan's voice came from behind him. Nice sword skill. Too bad you met me. The youth jumped in fright. When did he get behind me? In this moment of imminent danger, he stabbed backwards. The sword art's aim was perfect, targeting Zhuofan's chest. Zhuofan looked down calmly. with slight praise in his heart, too bad it's over. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan ignored the sword going for his chest and slashed at the youth's waist. If this continued it would end with Zhuo Fan being gravely wounded and the youth dead. A wound for a kill, worth it. Chapter 59, Sword Marquise Abode of the Seven Noble Houses. Chapter 59, Sword Marquise Abode of the Seven Noble Houses. Ding! Zhuo Fan slashed with full power, but a metal screech echoed and Savage Moon bounced back. He squinted as his heart was in a panic. This punk has a spiritual armor besides the spiritual weapon. But the timing didn't even let him think. The youth's sword was getting dangerously close to his chest. In this wound for a kill scenario, his opponent would come unharmed while he would be too wounded to continue fighting. Damn it, I miscalculated this time. Zhuo Fan secretly cursed and used the Savage Moon's rebound to save himself. Not for the life of him did he think this freakin' punk to be this rich. Even an elder from Hell Valley had a single demonic treasure at best. But this punk here was wielding one while wearing another. Who the hell is he? Bam! With no more time to think, Zhuo Fan's Savage Moon and the golden sword struck each other. With a loud sound, Zhuo Fan flew back due to the force. The blood in his chest flowed erratically and forced him to spew blood. He hit the dirt and the Savage Moon clanked next to him in two. His brow shivered as he turned solemn. He has a 4th grade spiritual armor on him that my blood infant can't get through. The only way to hurt him was with Savage Moon. But Savage Moon is now in pieces. This was the first time since his rebirth that Zhuo Fan met such a danger to his life. The youth was in the 7th layer of bone tempering stage, had a spiritual weapon, had a spiritual armor, and even profound ranked martial arts. I can't punch through his defense and I can only take a beating. But the worst part was, the youth used all his power against someone weaker. Everyone was afraid of the serious types. This will make it even harder for him to make any mistakes for me to exploit. How do I fight him? Zhuo Fan stared down the figure while his forehead ran cold with sweat. Yet who'd have known that the youth's mental state mirrored his, maybe even more terrified. The youth was known as a genius among geniuses in his clan. He learned the sword all his life and never lost. But against Zhuo Fan, who was weaker, he was one move away from dying even when he exerted his all. If not for the spiritual armor, he'd be dead. Dead from a man weaker than him by a stage. He just couldn't get over this. He was an exceptional genius who could defeat a peak bone tempering expert in a single move. He was the clan's successor, how could? The youth's brow was sweating bullets and gnashed his teeth at Zhuo Fan. Brother, what is your name? Zhuo Fan was startled and saw the change in the youth's eyes. Guessing he wouldn't keep on wanting to kill them, he replied, Zhuo Fan. I'll remember you. We'll finish this the next time we meet. That youth sheathed his sword, took his burrowing mouse, and was about to leave. Zhuo Fan rushed to say, wait. The youth stopped. What is it? Dare I ask, brother, are you also here for the diamond sand? The youth stared at Zhuo Fan. What if I am, what if I'm not? Zhuo Fan smiled. If not, then let's part ways. If you are, want to work together? Work together? The youth frowned and took a long look at the two. How? Not even the 3 of us are enough to steal 1 speck of diamond sand. Not long back, this youth viewed them as nothing more than insects, but his words just now showed his respect for Zhuo Fan's strength as someone equal to him. Zhuo Fan grinned inside. We can negotiate like this. Brother has a burrowing mouse, so you plan to avoid fighting them. The youth smiled, so we had the same idea. I see why you wanted this guy. But this burrowing mouse is mine. What can you bring if we team up? The correct way of using the burrowing mouse. Zhuo Fan continued with a smile. How is brother going to use it to get the diamond sand? The youth squinted, and replied with another question, how about you? Dig a tunnel, wait for the diamond sand to erupt, and we steal some. Xue Ningxiang spoke out of turn. But her response only earned the laughter of the two until her face went red. She glared, "Why are you laughing? Am I wrong?" The youth shook his head, "Lady, they have a profound heaven expert, so how could it work? You'll be caught before you even make a move." Zhuo Fan nodded, "In any case, my silly sister raised an option we definitely must avoid. What about you?" Xuaningxiang glared at Zhuo Fan for making fun of her, but her face became red again for some other reason. The youth spoke simply, "Easy, the diamond sand is pushed by the deep earth and comes out as a spring. I will have the burrowing mouse dig a small tunnel from the main course to direct a part of the diamond sand to me." Zhuo Fan clapped and Xuaningxiang praised the brilliance of it. "Great plan." The youth smiled with pride, but Zhuo Fan shook his head, "If I were you, this would also be the best plan." The youth frowned, "You have a better way then?" "Ha ha ha, of course. Why would I work with you if I didn't?" Zhuo Fan smiled as he continued, "Your plan won't earn you even 1,000th. Since there are so many types of earth layers beneath us, the diamond sand will be stuck along the way and you will get even less." "What's your idea then?" The youth stared at him. With a mysterious smile, Zhuo Fan stuck out his chin, "If brother believes me, I can get all of it, leaving nothing to Hell Valley. We will later split it evenly. What do you say? How can that be?" The youth watched them in shock, but Zhuo Fan was confident, "My skill is making impossible possible." This got the youth to recall Zhuo Fan's close call in killing him and nodded, "Fine, I believe you. How do we do it?" "Splendid." Zhuo Fan laughed, "We are now partners. How should I address brother?" "Xia Tianyang." The youth spoke loud and clear. Zhuo Fan frowned, "Xia, you mean you're from the 7 noble houses, Sword Marquise Abode?" Waving his hand, Xia Tianyang smiled vaguely. But they all figured out even if Zhuo Fan didn't get to finish. Xuaningxiang watched the youth for a long time in shock. Second-rate clans like the Xue clan relied on the protection of the 7 noble houses. Just that she never got to leave Blue Expanse City, not once in her life, and the only 7 noble houses people she saw were from Hell Valley. "Oh, Brother Zhuo, what house do you come from that you're so amazing?" Xuaningxiang couldn't help but wonder as Zhuo Fan was so young and yet no less powerful than Xia Tianyang. In fact, Zhuo Fan could have struck this disciple of Sword Marquise Abode dead if not for the spiritual armor. Thus, Zhuo Fan had to be from a special background. Xia Tianyang also turned to Zhuo Fan with eager eyes. He wanted to know just which house gave birth to such a monster. Zhuo Fan shook his head with a smile, "I'm no one important, just a small steward in the Luo clan of Windgaze City." "Steward? Luo clan?" The two were shocked. "Luo clan? Never heard of it." "Ha ha ha, it's quite normal for you to not know. Luo clan is just a third-rate clan." Zhuo Fan smiled. This time, both of them eyed him with suspicion. They would never believe that a trifling clan could raise such an expert. Not even the imperial family and the 7 houses had many like him. "Brother, if what you said is true, you are welcome to join Sword Marquise Abode." Xia Tianyang's eyes shined as he patted Zhuo Fan's shoulder. It mattered little if Zhuo Fan was being honest, he was an unpolished gem nonetheless. With Zhuo Fan joining the Sword Marquise Abode, the Luo clan would one day be a second-rate clan, maybe even a peak second-rate with the house's assistance. The Sword Marquise Abode would at that time grow in power even more. For one of the 7 noble houses to personally ask for a clan to sign an agreement with them would stir all other small clans into crying if they found out. But Zhuo Fan only disdained this act. Knowing where Xia Tianyang was going with this, Zhuo Fan smiled, "He, you're late. I already signed an alliance agreement with Veiled Dragon Pavilion. But if Sword Marquise Abode wants to sign a similar agreement, I'd be happy to oblige." "What?" Zhuo Fan just dropped a bomb that shocked the other two to their cores. "Alliance agreement? Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Why would Veiled Dragon Pavilion do this for a small clan? Chapter 60, 1,000-mile-long array. Chapter 60, 1,000-mile-long array. Xuaningxiang and Xia Tianyang took long skeptical looks at Zhuo Fan. From Zhuo Fan's reaction, it could be said he spoke the truth. But this news was too outrageous, even worse than if the heaven and earth switched places. The 7 noble houses could stand shoulder to shoulder with the imperial family. If they discovered a clan with great potential, signing a vassal agreement was more appropriate. But an alliance agreement only ever happened between the 7 noble houses. Yet this gap in power between the house and the clan breached by an alliance agreement made it look like the emperor went out to a beggar and called him brother. Such an act would make them, the 7 houses and the emperor, look like charitable folks. But this was fundamentally impossible. Just how did Zhuo Fan do it? Xia Tianyang watched Zhuo Fan closely but shook his head in the end. Brother, it's fine if you don't want to say it. But do you have to lie to us so openly? Xuaningxiang rolled her eyes while whining, Brother Zhuo, we told you everything about us, while you still keep your secret. This is not proper. Zhuo Fan shook his head. The truth was taken as lies by others and he did not know how to respond. Alright, Brother Zhuo, let's forget it. We'll be going our separate ways when this is over anyway, with little chance of meeting again. There's no need to know everything about each other. Then, Xia Tianyang clapped, we had better listen to Brother Zhuo's plan. Zhuo Fan nodded with a smile. He liked Xia Tianyang's attitude a lot. There was no eternal enemies and friends in the world, only benefits. They were friends now, thanks to a mutual goal, but tomorrow they might be on opposite sides. There was no need to know too much about each other. Quite the contrary, it would be best to hide one's secret and protect one's identity. Only Xuaningxiang pouted, since we were brought together by fate, why can't we be friends? Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang just smiled. Zhuo Fan then retrieved a piece of paper from his ring and began to write on it. 15 minutes later, a strange design adorned it. Xuaningxiang was looking puzzled, while Xia Tianyang was feeling more and more astonished with each brushwork. This. Xia Tianyang watched the finished design in shock, a first-grade array. But I've never seen this one in my life, and I've seen my fair share. Zhuo Fan secretly nodded. Xia Tianyang was from the 7 houses, and just like Long Kuei, he had learned of arrays from a young age. But few parts of this array were from an ancient era and not seen today. Thus, he could not understand the array completely. Xia Tianyang studied the design for a long time, then looked at Zhuo Fan with a firm gaze. You're from the 7 houses, no, maybe even imperial. He wasn't certain, because the more he got to know Zhuo Fan, the more Zhuo Fan's talent scared him. So much that he couldn't ascertain which house Zhuo Fan belonged to. He even felt the 7 houses couldn't have raised such a monstrous talent. Then the only one above the houses was the imperial family. Zhuo Fan shook his head, I already said it. It's up to you to believe or not, but now we're working together. Xia Tianyang gave a strained nod. Follow me. Zhuo Fan took out a map and walked ahead with the other 2 close behind. After half a day, Zhuo Fan reached a stream. He gave the area a once-over and nodded. Xuaningxiang and Xia Tianyang were filled with curiosity. This place was even farther away from the Golden Spring Pool, and near the border to the second area in the Allbeast Mountain Range. Allbeast Mountain Range was split into 3 areas based on how dangerous the spiritual beasts were. The first area was the safest, with only first and second level spiritual beasts roaming around, and the seldom third level. These were suited for foundation establishment and chi condensation cultivators to catch as spirit animals. And the Golden Spring Pool was in this area. The second area was the treasure hunting area, a place where 3rd and 4th level spiritual beasts came and went as they pleased. Entering it while being below the bone tempering stage equaled death. But this area was filled with spiritual beasts, an important place from where strong experts got their spirit animals. The third area was deemed as the danger zone. The spiritual beasts here were of 5th and 6th level. Even a radiant stage expert would die here. As such, if one didn't have absolute confidence in his power, he would not step foot here. Zhuo Fan was now standing near the border between the first and second areas. Once they entered the second area, Xuaningxiang, with her qi condensation cultivation, would find death lurking at every corner. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and nodded, this is it. Xuaningxiang and Xia Tianyang were puzzled, but Zhuo Fan waved, Brother Tianyang, I'll be counting on your burrowing mouse to dig a tunnel to the Golden Spring Pool, then keep digging along this pattern. Zhuo Fan pointed on the map, this is where the Golden Spring Pool is. What? Xia Tianyang said startled, for it to dig to the Golden Spring Pool is not a problem, but for it to arrange spirit stones and set an array. It will take more than 1,000 trips. Correct, 3221 to be exact. Zhuo Fan nodded, burrowing mouse is small and can only carry one spirit stone at a time. This means it will take 3,221 trips to set the array around the Golden Spring Pool. Xia Tianyang gasped and Xuaningxiang went slack-jawed, you want to work it to death. Even the burrowing mouse seemed to understand and collapsed on Xia Tianyang's shoulder. Shit, this punk is after my life. I can't do this idiotic thing or it'll be the death of me. Burrowing mouse shut its eyes. Even when it fell from the shoulder and landed on a rock it wouldn't open them, though its twitching gave it away. Zhuo Fan smirked and ignored the critter while talking to its owner, time is of the essence. Diamond sand could erupt at any minute, so get your critter step on it. Is there no other way? Xia Tianyang asked with a solemn expression. Zhuo Fan smiled, if you can snatch the diamond sand from right under their noses then be my guest. Xia Tianyang watched the unmoving critter on the ground with pity. Zhuo Fan added an incentive, there's a lot more burrowing mouse where he comes from, but as for diamond sand. He, only if you listen to me will you make a killing. Spurred on, Xia Tianyang's eyes flashed and he nodded, fine, it's just a first-level spirit animal anyway. Who would need it, ha ha ha. The burrowing mouse jumped to its feet and pleaded to its owner with teary eyes. Master, how can you be so cruel? I'll end up working to the bone. But Xia Tianyang was too far gone to notice its gesture, as he and Zhuo Fan looked like demons with their manic grins at the poor critter. Xuaningxiang watched the cuddly and pitiful little one and her heart swelled with love. She hugged it and comforted it as she glared at the two demons. But why would any of them care about a critter when diamond sand was at stake? At once, under the stately figure of its master, Xia Tianyang, the burrowing mouse was compelled to dig to Golden Spring Pool. In 15 minutes, a new pattern was beginning to emerge underneath the Golden Spring Pool, all according to Zhuo Fan's grand design. Yet the elder stationed at the Golden Spring Pool was oblivious to everything that was happening right underneath his nose. This was only the beginning for the oppressed burrowing mouse, which was forced to work itself into the ground. The only time the trio saw it was when it came for the next spirit stone. It could take it at first, but once it was finished with its first 100 stones, it was dog-tired that even its fur was slick with sweat. Around the 500th trip, the critter was gasping. Xuaningxiang's heart was bleeding, wanting to give the poor guy a rest. But Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang stood like demons, just like a landlord overlooking his peasants, making sure to leave them dead tired. Especially Xia Tianyang, having nothing but diamond sand in his head, he had no time to mind trifles like getting his spirit animal killed from overworking. This resulted with the burrowing mouse making trip after trip and Xuaningxiang giving it a sip of water on the sly out of pity, the only thing that she could do to ease its hell. In the eyes of the little guy, she became a goddess. It was starting to hate itself for choosing poorly. Its owner just heard Demon King Zhuo Fan's 2 cents and was hooked into sending it to its death. When it came out for the final time, it was close to breathing its last. Xuaningxiang hugged it and consoled it, letting it feel the joy of a survivor. Zhuo Fan smiled at Xia Tianyang. "See, I told you it'd be fine." Xia Tianyang sighed. "Yeah, but this guy would hate me to the bone after this." "No choice. If we wanted to have the array in place within 3 days, the only choice was its sacrifice." Zhuo Fan shrugged. If he'd really died of work, then it wouldn't be treated as a first-level spiritual beast. Zhuo Fan stood up and his hand flashed as he deployed another array on the stream's bank. With a hand sign, the spirit stones in the ground lit up. An invisible ripple spread out and the two arrays, thousands of miles from each other, were now connected. At almost the same time, the elder at the Golden Spring Pool shivered and opened his eyes with suspicion. "What's going on? Why am I restless all of a sudden?" Next to the stream, Zhuo Fan revealed a wicked grin. "Only one more push. When the diamond sand erupts, Hell Valley's elder would get the shock of his life. He he he." Chapter 61, Heaven and Earth Shift. Chapter 61, Heaven and Earth Shift. With everything in place, Zhuo Fan's party entered an idle period alongside Hell Valley's elder, waiting for the eruption of diamond sand. For a while, everything was quiet and peaceful. Xia Tianyang was feeling bored standing guard every day and thought of training his martial arts, but his worries about the diamond sand erupting and Zhuo Fan hogging it won over that feeling in the end. Because he knew Zhuo Fan's mannerism but not his intention, and because he didn't understand Zhuo Fan either, he held some mistrust. While Xuaningxiang seemed to have forgotten about the diamond sand and played with the burrowing mouse every day. Xia Tianyang tried to call the critter over, but the little guy gave him an eye roll, which only worked to embarrass him. It was his spirit animal, yet it was closer with Xuaningxiang. So he switched targets to Zhuo Fan, watching him with a perplexed look. Zhuo Fan was a riddle, be it his background or his origins. In no way would he believe Zhuo Fan's words of coming from a small clan. Among their group, Zhuo Fan was the calmest. Over the past 10 so days, all he did was meditate. As if he didn't care about the diamond sand at all, while in fact it also concerned him the most. Zhuo Fan, in Xia Tianyang's mind, was becoming more valued, with how rare such a character existed in the Tianyu Empire. At least he didn't have the state of mind to cultivate while waiting for the diamond sand like Zhuo Fan. Cultivating with his anxiety and restlessness would only cause a deviation. While Zhuo Fan. Xia Tianyang scrutinized Zhuo Fan, feeling envy. A sudden sound woke Zhuo Fan up, at last, the 6th layer of qi condensation. Xia Tianyang's cheek trembled and showed a resigned expression. To break through at such a crucial time, he would never reach Zhuo Fan's state of mind for years to come. This was how the trio spent the next month. Xia Tianyang was bored out of his mind, Xuaningxiang and the critter played like crazy, sporting smiles every moment, while Zhuo Fan sat there in meditation. Rolling his eyes, Xia Tianyang was driven to the point of insanity. "If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have pushed the burrowing mouse that hard." The critter broke up with him so thoroughly that it wouldn't even come to relieve his boredom. "Can't take it anymore," Xia Tianyang wailed. Then a sudden bang resounded across the mountain range and the ground started shaking. "It's time." Zhuo Fan jumped to his feet. Xuaningxiang, who was playing with the critter, was a bit startled and turned to Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang. But the two didn't look afraid, only excited. Hell Valley's 7th elder stationed at Golden Spring Pool flew higher. "Ha ha ha, I have waited 2 months for this. Men, cast the nets to gather the diamond sand." The 7th elder roared and the bone-tempering guards bowed, understood. They then began throwing golden nets into the Golden Spring Pool until it was all shining golden. At the same time, at the stream, Zhuo Fan asked, "Did you prepare a net?" "Ha ha ha, why would I come for diamond sand if I hadn't?" Xia Tianyang laughed and cast his net. Diamond sand erupted along with lava and it needed special nets to filter it. Zhuo Fan also cast his own golden net into the stream. Xia Tianyang watched him doubtful. "Brother Zhuo, what will you do now?" "Watch closely." Zhuo Fan smiled with confidence and his hand performed signs, heaven and earth reverse, mountains and river switch, yin and yang shift, twin array exchange. The spirit stones laid underground shined ever brighter and each beam of light pierced the horizon. All around the golden spring pool, 3,221 light pillars towered towards the sky. The seventh elder felt uneasy, but as Diamond Sand's eruption was imminent, he had no time to mind parlor tricks and fixed his eyes on the hot spring's mouth. Suddenly, a column of water sprouted from the spring, just that the heat from it was far lower. People were stunned seeing this. Reason dictated that along with the eruption of Diamond Sand, lava should flow out too. The hot spring's water would be so hot that not even a bone-tempering expert should be able to approach. But why was there only plain water? Seventh elder blinked in a daze, then facepalmed, damn it, someone's playing us. He rushed higher in the air and saw thousands of light pillars in the distance. There. Seventh elder seethed in rage as he charged, "You're dead if you think you can play me." Meanwhile, the stream before Zhuo Fan's party was gone, replaced by a dark hole that was soon spewing lava along with fine and shiny particles. Diamond Sand. Xia Tianyang was overjoyed as he turned to Zhuo Fan in shock. "Brother Zhuo, you're great. How is the Diamond Sand erupting here?" Grinning, Zhuo Fan flatly said, "This array is called Heaven and Earth Shift. It is a mere first-grade array, but it can reverse yin and yang, shift mountains and rivers. I only switched Diamond Sand's flow to here." Zhuo Fan said it dully, but Xia Tianyang was shocked to the core. As far as he knew, only 6th grade and above arrays could do that, and they were all lost. But Zhuo Fan not only did it but used just a first-grade array in the process. He started to recall Zhuo Fan mentioning Veiled Dragon Pavilion's alliance agreement. It might not be far-fetched for Veiled Dragon Pavilion to make such an agreement if they knew of Brother Zhuo's outrageous talent. Xia Tianyang watched Zhuo Fan closely with a secret smile. He didn't think he'd meet such a man when he decided to get the Diamond Sand. There may not be a second person in the Empire who can set this array. Xia Tianyang then spoke, "Brother Zhuo, would you like to come into Sword Marquise' abode as a venerable?" Xuaningxiang was tongue-tied. Zhuo Fan was so young yet he'd get to be a venerable in one of the 7 houses. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes and almost made Xuaningxiang stumble with his next words, "Save it. Veiled Dragon Pavilion tried it already and I refused them all the same. That's why they changed to having an alliance agreement. Brother Zhuo, you're showing off here." Xuaningxiang clearly doubted his words. But Xia Tianyang nodded and said, "All right, I will send someone with an alliance agreement when I get back." "Where do I send it?" "Windgaze City's Luo clan. I will return when I am finished with my affairs." Xia Tianyang hesitated, "Then I will wait for your return. I want to sign it with you. With your skills, when you leave the Luo clan in the future, we won't lose out then." Zhuo Fan shook his head, "Why are all 7 houses the same?" Xuaningxiang gasped as her face twitched. Sword Marquise' abode is so unruly, why would they want to sign an agreement with an outsider? And it wasn't with a clan, but with a single man. But what escaped her thoughts was that precisely because Xia Tianyang was from the 7 houses that he valued Zhuo Fan so much. The average clan would never see Zhuo Fan's value. At this time, the dark cave let out a final eruption of lava. Seeing this, Zhuo Fan urged, "Get the nets." "Why the hurry?" Xia Tianyang waved and continued with a smile, "The nets are made of spirit metal. They won't break in lava." Zhuo Fan snorted, "You think I don't know that? If we don't go now, we may not have a life to enjoy it." Xia Tianyang was startled as Zhuo Fan continued, "You think all elders from Hell Valley are blind? Who wouldn't notice the light pillars? Just wait, and you will have a profound heaven expert hovering overhead." Xia Tianyang rushed in with his hand signs to recover the net. As the nets rose, the trio saw the glitters among the lava. And on the net's threads was shining sand. "What do we do now?" Xie Tianyang was happy seeing the net but was aware of the imminent danger. Zhuo Fan dragged them for 12 hours to this place for a reason most obvious, to buy time. Even a profound heaven expert would need 2 hours to reach here. During this time, they could retrieve the diamond sand and leave. But where to run was the question. Where was safe? Noticing Zhuo Fan gazing at the stream's opposite bank, the pair shouted, "The second area?" "Wrong," Zhuo Fan said dryly, "the third area." Gasping, the two stared at Zhuo Fan in a daze. Is this guy crazy? The second area is dangerous enough, but going to the third is suicide. But they both were oblivious to the fact that Zhuo Fan's aim from the start was in that area. 6th level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark. The shock got to Xie Tianyang so badly that his cheek was twitching. Who the hell is this punk? He's a chi condensation cultivator, yet can match me, a bone tempering cultivator. And now he's an alchemist too. Not only that, but he also sets up a lost array and refines unprecedented pills. Until now he thought that he had met a paragon like himself, just another strong opponent like the few geniuses he found his match in the 7 houses. But with Zhuo Fan revealing that he was also an alchemist, gave Xie Tianyang's psyche a heavy blow. Next time around, he'd never say that he was a genius, at least not when Zhuo Fan was present. Xie Tianyang swallowed the pill and jumped across the stream and into the second area. "Let's go." Zhuo Fan and Xuaningxiang were startled. What's up with him? They didn't know that this proud and conceited genius had just fallen from Cloud 9 all the way down into the mortal quagmire. 2 hours later, a gray figure landed next to the stream. It was the 7th Elder. His face was red with rage when he saw the steaming lava, and his hawk eyes flashed with killing intent. Someone pulled the diamond sand here. Squinting, the 7th Elder huffed a few times then calmed down. But the coldness on his face grew thicker. He looked around and muttered, "They just got the diamond sand and shouldn't have run far." If they stayed in the first area, death was only a matter of time. Then, the 7th Elder turned to the opposite bank with a sneer, "Think you can get rid of me with parlor tricks?" Then he soared into the second area. 100 miles out, Zhuo Fan's party was running when a sudden cawing came from behind followed by crows taking to the sky. Zhuo Fan stopped and looked back with a frown. What? Xie Tianyang and Xuaningxiang also stopped. What's going on? Zhuo Fan muttered, "That elder is charging right into the second area." What? Xie Tianyang was anxious. What now? He will catch up in no time. Zhuo Fan sighed, "I don't know. I thought that the elder would first search the first area after inspecting the lava, just to be sure. Thus, buying us enough time. Moreover, the second area is notoriously dangerous, so I guessed he wouldn't come here to search so soon. That is why I picked this area to flee. And by the time he'd figure it out, we'd have a 6-hour lead. And for his safety in the second area, he'd be flying far slower to avoid 4th-level spiritual beasts. At that point, we'd be in the third area and he'd ultimately given up the chase. In that area, he will be in the same boat as us, food for the spiritual beasts. So he'd never go in after us." Zhuo Fan squinted, yet he went for the second area from the start. "In this case, we only have 1 hour lead. If he catches up to us here, we're dead." "Brother Zhuo, haven't you heard of the 7th Elder and what he is famous for?" Xie Tianyang asked. Zhuo Fan was startled. "I only knew that a Hell Valley's elder was stationed here, but not the details." Sighing, Xie Tianyang shook his head, "Know your enemy and yourself and you shall win 100 battles. It's normal for you to make a mistake when you don't even know how dreadful the 7th Elder is." "Dreadful?" Zhuo Fan frowned. Xie Tianyang said in a severe tone, "He is greatly admired in Hell Valley, and even Valley Lord Yuanshan consults with him. Or he wouldn't have left such an important city in the 7th Elder's charge." "You're saying he's strong?" Zhuo Fan's brow twitched. Xia Tianyang shook his head, not his strength, but his schemes. He is cunning and deceitful, known as the Insidious demon. His mind is filled with schemes. Many elders of the 7 houses have fallen in his ploys. Even Veiled Dragon Pavilion's elder Jiu lost his purple lightning gold eye because of the 7th elder's plot. Many hate him to the bone, but even more fear him. No wonder Zhuo Fan's plan fell through. He is another who plays open schemes. This kind of plot is useless against him. But the die was cast and Zhuo Fan's only choice was to beat him at his own game. Brother Zhuo, our only choice is to leave Lady Ning'er behind. With our speed, we may be able to escape the 7th elder's clutches. Xia Tianyang's eyes flashed as he spoke firmly. Xuaningxiang shuddered and grabbed Zhuo Fan's arm with a pitiful look. Brother Zhuo, you promised to get me out. Brother Zhuo, this is not the time to be soft. Leave her behind. She will stall the 7th elder while we escape. Xia Tianyang's mind was set. Zhuo Fan squinted as he contemplated, then sneered at Xia Tianyang. Humph, if not for my energy-concealing pill, you'd have thrown me away too. Xia Tianyang's mouth pursed. Zhuo Fan laughed it off and said, I won't abandon anyone. As for that elder, I have my way to deal with him. I will fight him right here, with an array. Xia Tianyang nodded after a careful ponder. He knew of Zhuo Fan's skills in arrays and was certain that Zhuo Fan was an array grandmaster. Xuaningxiang was beaming as she heard him and was swinging Zhuo Fan's arm on and on with a red tint on her cheeks. But they both failed to notice Zhuo Fan's odd smile at the end. Chapter 63, Thunderflame Gale Array. Chapter 63, Thunderflame Gale Array. Whoosh! Beneath the shade of the forest, a gray figure flitted by. The moment a spiritual beast saw him, it would jump on him with greedy eyes. But the beast would ultimately fall to the ground lifeless with an extra fist imprint on its chest. The 7th elder's eyes turned darker, but his speed remained the same. Unlike Zhuo Fan, his flight attracted no little amount of trouble. Yet this only left a trail of 3rd-level spiritual beasts' corpses behind. He was lucky enough that he did not meet a 4th-level spiritual beast, or it would have been a slightly different outcome. Whoosh! Suddenly, he landed in an open area. He checked for tracks, making sure nothing escaped his sight. He, 3 little brats. Want to run? The 7th elder sneered. He stood upright and scrutinized his surroundings with a cold eye. Will you come out yourselves, or shall I drag you out? His yell bathed the trees in killing intent and scared off nearby spiritual beasts. Ha ha ha, I see the 7th elder is not without his reputation. No wonder you are called Insidious Demon, finding how many we are just from a few faint signs. I am in awe. Zhuo Fan's laughter resounded through the air. The 7th elder frowned and paid closer attention. Kid, you have just entered the 6th layer of chi condensation. Good ears. The hidden Zhuo Fan felt his heart go cold. This elder was shrewder than he'd thought, a hard opponent, but he still kept his cool. 7th elder must be tired after such a long chase. And fighting here will attract 4th-level spiritual beasts. It will be quite an annoyance to you. What if we strike a deal? Which is? The 7th elder snorted and his cold eyes flitted around the area. Zhuo Fan smiled. 7th elder chased us for so long, all for the diamond sand. If we give you half, are you willing to let us go? You must be joking. The diamond sand was mine to begin with. You want to bargain with what you stole from me? The 7th elder laughed while being shrouded in thick killing intent. I will not only get my diamond sand but wring the life out of you brats. Then the elder rushed towards a lush tree. He struck it with his palm and made it explode, to reveal Zhuo Fan sitting on the rock behind it. He, brat, you knew of my sharp hearing yet still talked about conditions with me. The 7th elder went for another palm attack, this time targeting Zhuo Fan. But the latter was calm as ever, he even smiled, he, I've never been afraid of revealing myself from the start. Zhuo Fan's hand shifted and... boom! With a loud noise, from behind Zhuo Fan, a towering flame rose 50 meters high. And with a bird cry, it took the shape of a phoenix. It spread its wings and launched 2 fire pillars at 7th Elder. Array? The Elder was startled as he didn't foresee the weak brat would know about arrays. From the look of its power, it had to be in 5th grade. No longer careless, he struck the pillars with his palms. Boom! Raging flames exploded and the Elder was thrown back with burned palms. Looking up, the Elder's carefree eyes from before sported a hint of severity now. I took you lightly. The 7th Elder squinted, never imagining a 6th layer of chi condensation youth was a 5th grade array master. Too bad it won't be enough to beat me. The 7th Elder soared and made a sign. A fiendish demonic shadow rose behind him from the twisting black tendrils of energy. Wails echoed around him and made the temperature drop. Zhuo Fan's eyes squinted and his tone lowered. Such a malevolent demonic method, is this from Hell Valley's inheritance? He, why do the dead need to know so much? The 7th Elder cackled and pointed. The demonic shadow rushed at Zhuo Fan with a shriek. Zhuo Fan responded with a hand sign. The fire phoenix cried and spat flames. Bam! Flames and shadow collided in an anticlimactic way. When the fire touched the demon, hissing was heard as if it was met with ice. The 7th Elder looked proud of this while Zhuo Fan squinted, Ninger, now. A faint cry echoed and from another side not far from Zhuo Fan, a fierce gale hammered through the woods and exposed Xuaningxiang sitting on a stone. At Zhuo Fan's call, she made the hand signs he had taught her. A chilling wind picked up and flew like a blade as it fused into the fire phoenix's attack. The fire pillar expanded 10 times in a blink and started pushing back the demonic shadow. The 7th Elder's face turned grave and made hand signs to strengthen the demonic shadow. But with the help of Xuaningxiang, Zhuo Fan was getting the upper hand and the 7th Elder started sweating. He never saw it coming. Another person was controlling the array. But before he could think of a countermeasure, Zhuo Fan shouted again. Xia Tianyang, he's yours. Ha, I was waiting for this. See how I splatter the brains of a profound heaven expert. Under Xia Tianyang's incessant cackling, lightning burst and revealed him sitting on the other side of Zhuo Fan and across from Xuaningxiang. Xia Tianyang made a hand sign and launched a 50-meter-long lightning dragon. With a roar, it flashed right into the demonic shadow. Boom! As lightning entered the shadow, it triggered an explosion. The demonic shadow could not overcome the multiple increases in power and was blown into black pieces, soon becoming nothing but ash. The 7th Elder spatted blood. This defied all logic. Today, 3 brats hurt him. But the brats were far from done and battered him with the Thunderflame Gale again. If he didn't do something now, he'd be heavily wounded, he may even die. The 7th Elder braced himself and waved the centipede-like chain that suddenly appeared in his hand. Boom! The Thunderflame Gale attack was blown away as the Elder took a few steps back. Zhuo Fan's side also shivered as each of them felt blood stagnating in their chest. It was a tie. 4th grade demonic treasure. Zhuo Fan turned serious. The 7th Elder gasped and barked, Good, well done. I've traveled the world for so long but today, 3 brats have reduced me to this state. He turned to Zhuo Fan, I admit you're strong. If we continue, it will end with both sides dead. It's better to take your previous deal. Give me half of diamond sand and I will go. The 3 exchanged glances. Xuaningxiang and Xia Tianyang didn't want to offend Hell Valley and nodded. Zhuo Fan showed an amiable smile, all right, let's make the deal. He then jumped off the stone. The 7th Elder took back his weapon and flew towards Zhuo Fan. When they were 10 meters apart, suddenly both their eyes flashed with murderous intent. Die, Brat! Finish him! Shouting at the same time, the seventh elder revealed his demonic treasure and flung it at Zhuo Fan while the latter made hand signs. The flames and the centipede chain clashed. Xia Tianyang and Xuaningxiang were startled. Even though they missed the first clash, they soon sent lightning and wind blade toward the elder. The seventh elder couldn't dodge and had to destroy their attacks with his chain once again, but he was also forced to retreat to the skies. Eyeing Zhuo Fan, the elder's face turned green and white from rage. Bastard, who would believe you? He, takes a demonic cultivator to know one. Zhuo Fan smirked. Xuaningxiang and Xia Tianyang witnessed this in a daze. Who the hell are they? One is more despicable than the other. None of them is worth trusting. Both of them had only one thought since the beginning: kill. They're too damn vile, treacherous, insidious. Had one of them trusted the other, then their side would have died by now. This thought made the two gasp and their eyes darted at Zhuo Fan. Thank God we have one just as vile and insidious among us. Or we'd be dead for sure. Chapter 64, Bait. Chapter 64, Bait. I need to calm down first. The seventh elder took a deep breath and inspected the area with wrinkled brows. He found that the recovery of diamond sand was becoming a headache, and when he knew the trio ran into the second area, he confirmed it. With his experience, he could easily discover their meager cultivation. And with the highest among them being the seventh layer of bone tempering stage, it was no different than squeezing 3 insects. What was unbelievable though, one of them had a deep knowledge of arrays along with a cunning mind, unlike a rash and ignorant youth he posed to be. This led to the current predicament. With the 3 working together to control the array, he would never get the upper hand. However, he thought of something and his hawk eyes flashed sinisterly. You are Shui clan's third young miss. The seventh elder ignored Zhuo Fan and switched targets, sizing Xuaningxiang with a smile. I remember seeing you 5 years ago. You were just a child back then. My, how you've grown into a fine lady. Xuaningxiang's heart seized and lowered her head to avoid his piercing gaze. Zhuo Fan shouted, Seventh elder, if you have something to say it to my face. Don't go around scaring girls. Yet the seventh elder's eyes never left Xuaningxiang. Ninger, why do you bother going against me? Shui clan is a vassal of Hell Valley. We always took care of your Shui clan. And yet here you are, resorting to this. His eyes flashed with murder as he spoke. Xuaningxiang shivered and could no longer keep the hand sign up. Zhuo Fan knew that the seventh elder was threatening Xuaningxiang and rushed to say, attack. He and Xia Tianyang synced their hand signs, launching lightning and fire at the seventh elder. But Xuaningxiang was still in a daze, her hands trembling. Xia Tianyang thought, damn, Xuaningxiang is worried for her clan and has no will to fight. Without the wind's help, there'll be a sharp decline in power. The seventh elder was fighting a psychological battle, grasping the trio's weakness. Fire and lightning combined as it neared the elder, but his centipede chain just flew at it and the attack was nulled. The seventh elder stood still in the sky while Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang spat blood. Ha ha ha, that's better. The seventh elder cackled, Ninger, you made the right choice. These brats will wash their hands over this and leave from here, while your clan will stay forever. Zhuo Fan looked at the shivering Xuaningxiang and urged, Ninger, don't listen to the old goat. He knows who you are and will destroy your clan either way. The only way to save the Shui clan is to kill him here and now. Remember my words, the Thunderflame Gale array needs 3 people to work together, and as long as the 3 are in sync, not even a profound heaven expert can escape. Another shiver reeked Xuaningxiang's frail body and now she stood still. The seventh elder's words scared her, but she had finally recovered. Zhuo Fan smirked and shouted, if this old coot lives, your clan is no more. Boom. His words echoed in her ears and Xuaningxiang rose her head to show killing intent for the first time as she muttered non-stop, he can't leave. He has to die, he must. Die! Xuaningxiang roared the last word and completed the hand sign. A green panther roared behind her and sped towards the seventh elder, 10 times stronger than before. The elder panicked, noticing the true power of the array in Xuaningxiang's hands. From the start, the two brats used all they had in fighting me, yet she hadn't. Xuaningxiang was a kind and gentle soul, not willing to kill even her enemy. But the seventh elder's words struck a chord in her frail heart that she was close to losing her will for fighting. It was then that Zhuo Fan woke her up and lit a fire in her. The dissonance in her heart led to unleashing her full power. To protect her clan, Xuaningxiang turned cold and unfeeling like a reaper. She was willing to do anything and everything to make sure the old geezer died here. Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang smiled and launched their own attacks. Fire, wind, and lightning combined at their strongest into an overpowering strike that threatened to consume the seventh elder. Even the calm and collected seventh elder was starting to feel fear. He hastily lifted the centipede chain and lashed. Boom! A huge explosion shook the entire second area and even the sky seemed to collapse. Some fourth-level spiritual beasts even fled. The seventh elder, who was caught in the middle, was blasted a dozen meters with his hair and beard singed as he spat blood. But this time, the blood evaporated before it touched the ground. It was proof of the intensity of the attack that pierced his inner organs. With such a heavy wound, just one more and he'd be done for. For the first time, the seventh elder panted with fear in his eyes. Not even he could foresee that the array needed just the girl to flip out for unleashing its full power. But he understood that he would not be able to take more of such attacks. He's on his last leg. Ninger, Xie Tianyang, get ready. We'll finish him off. Zhuo Fan laughed as he made another hand sign. But a sudden green panther beat him and Xie Tianyang to the punch. All Zhuo Fan saw was Xuaningxiang going crazy and making signs on and on as she raved, he has to die, he must die. Damn, this girl has lost it. I managed to spur her on, but now she is too far gone. Her only thought is to kill the old goat, even disregarding cooperation with her allies. Her action was limiting the array's power. The seventh elder noticed this weakness and smiled as he charged for Xuaningxiang. He was only facing a wind panther, and without the other two elements, he could breeze through it. With a swing of the centipede chain, the panther was no more. Quickly help Ninger. Zhuo Fan panicked as he formed hand signs alongside Xia Tianyang. Once again lightning and fire came at the seventh elder. Yet such lack of cooperation lost the array's advantage and the seventh elder dealt with it easily. He flung the centipede chain, removing this nuisance and appeared before Xuaningxiang. But she sank in, making hand signs. The seventh elder snorted and clutched her neck, lifting her off the ground. Xuaningxiang began suffocating and her hands slowed down. Crazy girl, you almost had me killed. Consider yourself lucky since you still have some use, or I'd have killed you already. Ninger. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang stood up with worry. The seventh elder mocked them, what are you brats called anyway? Sit tight, I will deal with you in a moment. Zhuo Fan clenched his fists. Cough, cough, cough. Xuaningxiang coughed, looking at Zhuo Fan with pleading eyes, kill him, don't let him harm my father. He, what a carrying daughter. You're still thinking about your father? Too bad these two brats have no way of killing me. Once I get back, I'll make sure to wipe the Shui clan for good. Tears glistened down Xuaningxiang's cheeks. Xie Tianyang's heart hurt and roared in anger, Hell Valley Elder, does one of your stature even know what shame is to raise your hand on a defenseless girl? He, there's no such thing as shame in a demonic cultivator's vocabulary. The seventh elder cackled and turned to Zhuo Fan, brat, you're just like this old man, stirring this girl's will to fight with a few words. I would have taken you as my disciple if not for us being enemies. You hurt my friend, so you must die by my hands. Zhuo Fan's tone was irreproachable, Xie Tianyang, get ready to strike. But Ninger also agreed. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with a hard look. Xia Tianyang felt cold as he looked at Zhuo Fan, then saw the pleading eyes of Xuaningxiang and sighed. This old man must die, or he will slaughter the Xue clan and Ninger won't ever find peace, even in death. Xia Tianyang then yelled as he made hand signs. The lightning dragon roared as it encroached on the seventh elder. Zhuo Fan, with his red eyes, also shouted and the phoenix behind him spread its wings. This was the strongest power they managed to unleash through their cooperation. But to all this, the seventh elder's answer was disdain. Humph, I have already figured out this array. Without wind, just you two are nothing. Xia Tianyang gnashed his teeth. Would our full power attack amount to nothing? Would we meet our end at his hands? Furthermore, Ninger's clan would be doomed. But Zhuo Fan revealed an evil grin. Who said we lacked wind? His hands shifted through the signs and the seventh elder was swallowed by a tornado, turning his immediate surrounding into a wind prison. Then came the lightning dragon and fire phoenix. Boom! Fire and lightning mixed, erupting in a spectacular fashion on contact with the tornado, burning everything within into nothing. This display of power was twice as strong as their best attack. This time the elder should be dead. Xia Tianyang watched it all at a loss. How, what? How the wind appeared. Zhuo Fan smiled. Unlike someone who just lost a friend, I told you before that I can't control the fifth grade array by myself and need all three of us to work together, right? Well, I lied. That seventh elder would have seen through you and I couldn't have deceived him in the end. What, all, was a lie? Xia Tianyang stammered. Zhuo Fan smiled. Insidious demon is beyond sharp, he is Hell Valley's sage. If I fight him alone, defeat is certain. So I arranged for you two to work with me in controlling the array and help conserve power. But this wasn't without its weakness. Us three had to be in full cooperation to unleash its greatest power. Him being the insidious demon, he would find this out with ease and would target the weakest among us. It's clear Ninger is that person and he would attack her. But he would have never guessed Ninger was the bait I laid out for him. So, he fell right into my trap. Why, you're saying that you had planned on giving up on Ninger from the start? Xia Tianyang gasped. Zhuo Fan felt like a stranger to him. He still recalled how Zhuo Fan yelled at Ninger, I won't leave anyone behind, his eyes filled with righteousness. Was it all an act? What's with that look? Zhuo Fan sneered, didn't you say to leave Ninger behind and flee, that she was a burden? I only thought of a more appropriate use of this burden. What of your promise to her? Xia Tianyang swallowed dryly, I heard you promised Ninger to take her outside the city. Zhuo Fan waved it off, the result's the same, be it living or otherwise. Seeing Zhuo Fan's casual manner, Xia Tianyang felt numb and a chill crawled up his spine. After working together for over a month, he had thought that he somewhat understood Zhuo Fan's character. But now it felt like he was talking to a stranger. Such sheer cruelty made him, a seventh layer of bone-tempering expert, feel more fear than facing a radiant stage expert. But laughter came from amidst the Thunderflame Gale prison. Chapter 65, Insidious Demon. Chapter 65, Insidious Demon. Ha ha ha, kid, you're just like me. Selfish, cruel, heartless, and won't even hesitate to use your own men. Even I'm feeling a bit afraid of you. Boom. The Thunderflame Gale prison blew away with a loud noise to reveal the sinister smiling seventh elder. Yet now he held another centipede chain in his hand, this one black. The two chains formed a helix around him, sparing his life from the dreadful attack. But even so, his body was littered with burn marks, and one could even see the bone in some places as blood seeped out. It was obvious that he survived because of these chains. And that too against the true power of the Thunderflame Gale array. After spitting some burning blood, the seventh elder gasped, but his wicked eyes never left Shuo Fan for a moment. Kid, I have always been quick to pick up on things related to my enemies everywhere I went, but today you almost had me killed. I have to admit, I never met such dreadful brat in my life. Shuo Fan looked over to see Xuaningxiang unconscious at his feet. But she wasn't dead. Perhaps the chain helix protected her the same way it protected the elder. But it wasn't like Shuo Fan cared if she lived or died. He just kept staring at the black centipede chain. You have another 4th grade demonic treasure? He, I used to have only one. The 7th elder joined the 2 centipede chains together to form a black and white chain. This 4th grade demonic treasure, yin-yang chains are of one body. I usually attack with the yang chain and use the yin chain to kill my enemy at the right time. But to save myself today, you forced me to reveal my yin chain. You should be proud of that. Even profound heaven experts only figure out the truth at the moment of their deaths. Shuo Fan gnashed his teeth. The Insidious demon title fits you like a glove. You were willing to suffer a heavy wound just to keep this move hidden. But of course. The 7th elder coughed blood twice, but his face still retained the sinister smile. With how the world is filled with lies and schemes, I prefer to keep my strongest move hidden. That is why my ploys always succeed while the ones against me fail. But today is the exception. The 7th elder's eyes flashed and threw the yang chain at Shuo Fan and the yin chain at Xie Tianyang as he roared, "Too bad you're out of tricks and can't beat me." I beg to differ. Shuo Fan smirked and made a hand sign, making a bloody light fly out of Xuaningxiang towards the 7th elder. The elder was seriously hurt and the chains were far away. Shuo Fan watched him like a hawk just to find if he also had a defensive demonic treasure. This way he could put Blood Infant to good use. In his sorry state, if Blood Infant was to get inside the 7th elder, he'd be refined without even a means to resist. This was Shuo Fan's true killing move. Even the Thunderflame Gale prison was only used as bait to reveal all the elder's cards. Shuo Fan refused to believe a man with the insidious demon fame had no hidden means to save himself. Demonic creature. On the other hand, the 7th elder was startled by the bloody light. He now figured out what Shuo Fan really intended when he said Xuaningxiang was the bait. It wasn't just to trap him in the Thunderflame Gale prison but to also hide a killing move. With how close he was to her, he had no way of dodging. Insidious demon had to admire Shuo Fan's cunning mind for beating him at every turn. Shuo Fan was expectant of victory as he smiled. "It's over, 7th elder. This fight is my win." Suddenly, the 7th elder's yang chain pierced through Shuo Fan's chest. He felt his heart being crushed. A large hole was left behind on his body, with pieces of his heart here and there. This is impossible. Shuo Fan was confident that the Blood Infant would gain control of the 7th elder once it entered him, also stopping the yang chain's attack. But the truth was, the chain never stopped. Shuo Fan even felt his organs withering and seeping life force. This wasn't caused by the chain, but by Blood Infant's injury. Puking blood, Shuo Fan watched in shock as Blood Infant hung behind the 7th elder. A flash of silver revealed a needle impaling Blood Infant's chest. 3rd grade demonic treasure, Twisted Needle. The 7th elder sneered at Shuo Fan and pulled back the twisted needle into his elbow. Blood Infant collapsed and Shuo Fan fell to his knees. His eyes were filled with dread. He couldn't believe he just lost. Bam! A sound was heard from the side. Xie Tianyang struggled for his life but the yin chain lashed over his chest and he was now spitting blood. It was thanks to his spiritual armor that he was still breathing. Ignoring the rest, the 7th elder walked to Shuo Fan calmly. "Kid, I am known as the Insidious Demon. How can anyone outsmart me?" The 7th elder watched the dying Shuo Fan. "You're good, real good. Your schemes even make me feel fear. In a decade or two, you will become an outstanding demonic cultivator. Not even the #1 sage in Tianyu can compare to you." A pity you won't live so long, because I am afraid of what you'll become. You are the first to ever make me feel this way. He was about to land the finishing blow. You might die at my hand, but do not feel bad. Our cunningness is about the same, but I am stronger. In front of true power, all tricks, all methods are moot. The seventh elder's palm came from above and Zhuo Fan could even hear the whistling wind. He didn't want to die, but he had nothing left to fight with. A loss was a loss, be it in power or cunningness. And the one to lose, died. But he had so many things he wanted to do. So what? The loser never had a choice to begin with. Closing his eyes, Zhuo Fan took one last breath and blacked out. Roar! A sudden roar shook the entire All-Beast mountain range and the seventh elder's palm stopped an inch above Zhuo Fan's head. Along with the roar, a wave of flames came to engulf everything. It swallowed trees and left empty husks behind. The seventh elder was startled. Looking towards the third area, he said with uncertainty, "Why is this monster coming to the second area?" Taking another look at the hopeless trio, he gnashed his teeth and fled, even disregarding the diamond sand. A bird cry soon followed and the skies darkened. A huge bird wing trailed above, overshadowing the earth. The spiritual beasts shivered in their caves. The huge bird's wing burned blue, and each flap sent sparks everywhere. Wherever the sparks landed, flames torched all of it into nothing. The previously lush forest was now reduced to ash after the bird passed. Not even bones were left of the fourth-level spiritual beasts touched by the flames. The huge bird flew for a while then left, but the forest beneath it was no more. Zhuo Fan and the other two were lying unconscious among the ashes. Some spiritual beasts passed by but finding them dead, they left. In fact, it was thanks to the energy-concealing pill that hid their auras. Cough, cough, cough. With a light cough, Xuaningxiang strained her eyes open, but shock swept her heart. Why is the forest gone and only ash remained? The seventh elder couldn't have done this. She looked around in haste for Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang and saw them lying unconscious. Zhuo Fan had the most critical injury, bleeding from the hole in his chest. He wasn't too far from breathing his last. Chapter 66, Guilt. Chapter 66, Guilt. Brother Zhuo. Xuaningxiang was on Zhuo Fan with a cry and turned him over to see the fist-sized wound in his chest which went all the way through his back. His face paled by the second and his temperature dropped. Tears welled in Xuaningxiang's eyes and fell along with her anxious voice, "Brother Zhuo, wake up, wake up." Perhaps it was the soft tears or the incessant shouts grating on his ears that made Zhuo Fan crack his eyelids. "Brother Zhuo, you're awake." Xuaningxiang was glad. Zhuo Fan moved his lips but was too weak to even let out words. Watching her tear-stained face, Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and squeezed his last drop of energy into pointing, but his hand soon fell limp. Xuaningxiang caught his gesture and saw a blood infant in a pool of blood. "You want me to bring it over?" she asked. Zhuo Fan blinked weakly, the only thing he could do in his current state. Xuaningxiang thus marched to Blood Infant and was soon back with it in her arms. She then placed it on the hole in Zhuo Fan's chest. Blood Infant flashed red and was back in Zhuo Fan's body. He let out a breath as his complexion started improving slightly. His and Blood Infant's lives were shared, so much so that its wound was far more important than his own injury. As long as Blood Infant was fine, him suffering heavy wounds would matter little. But now Blood Infant's life hung by a thread. Without his blood essence, he could only keep it alive for a short while longer. He was in a worse condition too and had no way to save it. But as Blood Infant was kept alive, a bit of energy returned to him. "Be blood," Zhuo Fan whispered hoarsely. Xuaningxiang paused a moment, then cut her wrist with a dagger and brought her hand to Zhuo Fan's lips. The girl's blood dripped in Zhuo Fan's mouth and he slowly recovered a bit more energy. Xuaningxiang let out a relieved sigh and even sported a faint smile. But Zhuo Fan suddenly bit her wrist, sucking the blood out. Xuaningxiang braced through the pain and let him have his fill. Time passed but Zhuo Fan's appetite didn't drop. Xuaningxiang's face paled and was even getting woozy. She knew it was from the blood loss, but she didn't stop him. When Zhuo Fan finally let go and gasped for fresh air, he saw Xuaningxiang's pale countenance and felt complicated. Thank you. Zhuo Fan now had the strength to speak, thanks to the blood. Xuaningxiang smiled. She was feeling weak but her smile looked mesmerizing to Zhuo Fan. Recalling his previous act, his heart began to feel guilt. With a thought, a blue bottle flashed in his hand. Ninger, these are third-grade heart-protecting pills. Give me one, you take the second and give the third to the kid if he isn't dead. Xuaningxiang nodded and fed the first pill to him. She checked Xia Tianyang and found him alive. Excited, she fed him a pill but saved hers. Zhuo Fan was laid on the ground but his heart was clear. Ninger, you are also hurt. Why aren't you taking it? Ninger shook her head, it's only a scratch. This pill is too precious and it's better used on you too. Ha ha ha, not in the least. It came from Veiled Dragon Pavilion anyway, so don't worry. Zhuo Fan smiled. He came to All Beast Mountain Range prepared, not only in spirit stones but also in pills. Since the Imperial family and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were providing the Luo clan with stuff, he had everything besides the truly rare pills. Some of his pills were something not found even in the entire Tianyu Empire, refined by yours truly. I didn't think I'd use them so fast. Ninger, take it, it's yours. A snort came and Xuaningxiang turned towards Xia Tianyang. He was also worse for wear, not life-threatened like Zhuo Fan, but he couldn't move still. He would need 3 to 5 months to heal. Zhuo Fan couldn't budge but neither could he. Even so, his fear of Zhuo Fan wasn't that high and said with a clipped tone, Ninger, this big brother Zhuo wanted to use you as bait from the start. This is his just deserts. When Zhuo Fan exposed his plan, she was already unconscious in the Thunderflame Gale prison explosion. But hearing it now, she was startled and looked at Zhuo Fan with the hope that he'd deny. She refused to believe that brother Zhuo, who stood by her side for over a month, would be so cruel as to throw her away. Chapter 67, Heaven-Shaking Roar. Chapter 67, Heaven-Shaking Roar. Xuaningxiang turned to Zhuo Fan with a start. Zhuo Fan spoke while gazing at the weeds around the cave, that is soothing grass. That's perfect, it can help relieve fatigue. What is wrong with that? Xia Tianyang asked. Zhuo Fan said annoyed, that's true for humans, but for spiritual beasts, it has a calming effect that attracts nearby spiritual beasts. Xia Tianyang was anxious, that means, trap. Zhuo Fan nodded, yes, a trap made by predators. The burrowing mouse was drawn here and led us right to it. Curses, you can just bury your head and run, but we'll have to suffer. Why had I taken you in any way? Xia Tianyang snapped at the critter. He wasn't as brash usually, but he was now hurt and powerless to resist an attack. In this grim state, falling in a trap was the last straw. To escape from the seventh elder yet die in a beast's trap was something this genius disciple couldn't accept. The burrowing mouse squeaked a few times with a lowered head. Xuaningxiang hugged it to her chest and spoke softly to Zhuo Fan, what do we do now? She had ill feelings towards Zhuo Fan but she always turned to him for help when the going got tough. What else? Run. Xia Tianyang cut him off. Zhuo Fan asked hastily, what time is it? Xuaningxiang looked outside the cave, but the rain clouds blocked the sky. She shook her head, I'm not sure, a day must have passed by now. Damn. Zhuo Fan said gravely, the energy-concealing pill must have worn off and we are now easy targets. I'm guessing beasts must be coming here in droves. What? Xia Tianyang jumped, you said, droves? Zhuo Fan nodded. The truly strong spiritual beasts don't stoop so low to use this trick. Only low-level spiritual beasts place traps and move in packs. Just then, along with the sound of rain, roars of beast echoed, and several pairs of cruel eyes fixed on the cave's mouth. A rough look would spot around 1,000 heads. Bloodthirsty wolves. Zhuo Fan sighed. We're finished. Bloodthirsty wolves are second-level spiritual beasts, but with their numbers, they must have a third-level wolf king among them. Not even a fourth-level spiritual beast would dare to mess with them. Xia Tianyang saw the faint green eyes getting ever closer. Woe is me. Heaven must be jealous of my outstanding talent and wants to pluck me. Xuaningxiang looked worried while Zhuo Fan had his trademark unflappable expression. Xia Tianyang. Zhuo Fan said, give your sword to Ninger. Ninger. Xia Tianyang didn't understand. My star sword may be a 4th-grade spiritual weapon, but Ninger is in the chi condensation stage. It's not enough to deal with those savage beasts. He spoke of the difference in cultivation and leveled his eyes at Zhuo Fan. She isn't like you, fighting bone tempering and profound heaven experts while in chi condensation stage. Zhuo Fan smiled. Ninger won't be fighting the beasts, but escaping their encirclement. He took out a bottle from his ring but didn't have the strength to lift it. Ninger, take this energy-concealing pill. Zhuo Fan spoke calmly. Use it to leave All Beast Mountain Range once you break the encirclement, but don't go to your clan. Leave the city. Xia Tianyang now understood Zhuo Fan's plan. So he too took out his star sword. Their debt to Ninger was too great, and at this point, they were nothing but dead weights. Seeing their firm gazes, Xuaningxiang took the sword and ran outside. Both Xia Tianyang and Zhuo Fan revealed a smile, feeling a weight being lifted off their chests. This way, we can repay her kindness. Even if we die, we can do it free of regrets. Xia Tianyang mumbled. Zhuo Fan spoke blandly. I don't care about returning favors, just felt unwilling to die like this. I just don't want this girl to keep looking after me. Humph, how cold-hearted. Xia Tianyang snapped. After that short banter, the two were at peace, waiting for the bloodthirsty wolves to devour them. But then wails came, followed by blood splattering on both of them. When they looked towards the mouth of the cave, they were shocked to see Xuaningxiang standing guard at the entrance. Some bloodthirsty wolves were circling around trying to enter but were cut down by her. With her standing guard and this being the only entrance, the wolves were kept at bay. Ninger, what are you doing? Ha ha ha, the figure laughed. Boy, we are inside your consciousness. It's easy for me to tell when you lie. Zhuo Fan looked at the figure in fear. He could enter others' consciousness on his own. Such power went beyond radiant stage, maybe even above the mortal domain. Are you, from the sacred domain? Zhuo Fan gasped. He never thought that it was possible to run into a sacred domain's expert in the mortal domain. The figure was also surprised that Zhuo Fan knew about sacred domain and nodded. You aren't normal to know of sacred domain, to apply ancient arrays, and refine the blood infant. Zhuo Fan was shocked to find that all his actions were monitored. This man even knew of blood infant. Matters regarding Patriarch Blood Demon were decades old and very few people knew of them even in the sacred domain. If he hadn't stumbled upon the 9 Serenities secret records, he would be none the wiser. But, who exactly are you? I said it before, only I ask the questions here. The figure replied coldly, why do you want the Thunder Skylark? Speak the truth. Zhuo Fan was pensive, but found no way out. I want to go to Lightning Canyon and search for the Heavenly Emperor's remnant. For that, I need the Thunder Skylark to block the purple lightning. What? The blue figure never anticipated such an answer, but laughed in glee. Ha ha ha, good. Great even. That is a good place. You should definitely go. The figure vanished and popped right in front of Zhuo Fan's face. Zhuo Fan was startled but didn't pick up any bad intentions from him. The figure then tapped Zhuo Fan's forehead and a blue flame seeped in. Zhuo Fan only felt gentle energy from his forehead. Ha ha ha, boy, we are fated, so here's a gift. I hope you can help me in the future. The figure was gone, but his words rang in Zhuo Fan's ears. You can find the Thunder Skylark 3,000 miles into the third area. Do your best to catch it. Chapter 68, Between Life and Death. Chapter 68, Between Life and Death. Wait. Zhuo Fan sat up with a start. A ray of sunshine shone through the cave's mouth and forced him to cover his eyes. To his surprise, he found that he could actually move. Although still weak, he was mostly recovered. Inspecting himself in detail, he found the blood infant laying depressed in his dantian, but its life was no longer hanging by a thread. Even its eyes were trembling, on the verge of waking up. Being shocked was an understatement. Zhuo Fan knew the expert he met last night was someone who rose above the mortal domain. Or he wouldn't have had the ability to heal his wounds overnight along with blood infants. But, why did he choose me? Zhuo Fan rubbed his forehead, recalling that the man had planted something there. But his weak self didn't allow him to see clearly what it was. He shook his head in the end. It doesn't matter, anyway he saved me. Whatever his reasons are, I will figure them out sooner or later. With his current strength, what could he do against that man? Mocking himself, he realized that he was overthinking things sometimes. It had to do with the fact that he was in the 6th layer of chi condensation with the heart of an emperor stage expert. What a pain. So, his current objective was to boost his strength. The strong had the final say in everything. He sighed as he looked at the incoming sunshine. Despite the somber feeling exuding from the burned trees, the sun brought a ray of hope. A groan interrupted his musing and Zhuo Fan found Xuaningxiang's weak figure in a pool of blood. He rushed to her and fed a heart-protecting pill. A gentle yuan qi traveled within her body and Zhuo Fan breathed easy. The girl's wounds were only skin deep. She had overused her yuan qi in her fight against the bloodthirsty wolves and needed just a few days to recover. But the pale face of Xuaningxiang brought another wave of worry in his heart. He then started to remove the dirt from her face. Feeling his rough hand, Xuaningxiang cracked her eyes open and showed a sweet smile. Brother Zhuo, are we dead? Rest easy, we are alive and well. Liar, how are you able to move when you were so hurt? Xuaningxiang mumbled, but, at least we died together. And the girl faded into unconsciousness at the last word. Zhuo Fan watched her peaceful expression and carried her inside the cave to lay her next to the soothing grass. It was the best item in relieving fatigue for humans. Now he was standing beside the unconscious Xia Tianyang, with a not-so-friendly face. Yo, get up I say. Zhuo Fan kicked him lightly, twice for good measure, but he was still as a rock. Zhuo Fan sneered and swung his leg way back before kicking with enough oomph on Xia Tianyang's ass. Ah! A wail that shook the heavens and the forest was heard. It even frightened the spiritual beasts around. I say, what's with this ghastly yell? Trying to wake the heavens? The All-Beast mountain range doesn't lack dreadful monsters, you know. Xia Tianyang shivered as he reined in his tears. What is this place? What did I ever do to deserve such cruelty even in death? Is kicking once cruel? You, a sword Marquise Abode young master, have seen nothing yet. Zhuo Fan smiled at Xia Tianyang's shocked face. Xia Tianyang was startled seeing Zhuo Fan. Did you kick me? Why the hell, we clearly died together, so why can you hit me? Zhuo Fan grinned. If we're dead, all of us would be equals. Too bad, we are alive and kicking. And since you weren't moving. What, we're alive? Xia Tianyang stopped listening after that and laughed. Ha ha ha, it's the same cave. We are alive. But then his mood soured, eyeing Zhuo Fan up and down before yelling, why are you able to move while I can't? You had it far worse than me and your cultivation is weaker too. Zhuo Fan shrugged and perked an eyebrow, exasperating the self-entitled genius disciple. Xie Tianyang's lip quivered as he wailed in frustration, "Freak." Not for the life of him could he comprehend how Zhuo Fan was jumping around after having his life hanging by a thread just 2 days ago. Even he, a bone-tempering expert, would need 2 months of recovery to be able to stand. He was vexed enough knowing that Zhuo Fan was stronger than him, despite their realm difference, and better skilled than him, despite their differences in background. Now though, this damn punk showed a miracle, jumping back on his feet in no time at all. How can one even bloody compare? It's like being left light years behind. Zhuo Fan, tell me the truth. Who the heck are you? Xie Tianyang spat. Zhuo Fan lost his smile and patted Xie Tianyang's shoulder, human of course, though just slightly above average. Xie Tianyang was pissed off by Zhuo Fan's attitude. But his bad state didn't help him vent. And even if he could move, Zhuo Fan's array would just splatter him into pieces. This made bitter tears flow down his cheeks. A genius disciple's pride was crushed completely. Nonetheless, Zhuo Fan moving about had its upside. He could set up an array to defend them. Xie Tianyang had nothing to say to that. It brought far more advantage with Zhuo Fan recovered than if it was him instead. His cultivation only helped protect himself in such a place, let alone others. Spirit stones flew out of his ring and Zhuo Fan set up an ancient first-grade concealing array. At that moment, the cave disappeared from this place and not even a 6th-level spiritual beast would find it even if they passed through. The trio could finally heal in peace. Xuaningxiang woke up 3 days later and was wild with joy knowing that they weren't dead. Then she wondered where those wolves went and why they didn't eat the trio. Xie Tianyang was unclear about this too, but Zhuo Fan frowned, finding it tied to the expert he met in his consciousness. It was in this manner the trio recouped for 3 months. Zhuo Fan was back to full health while Xie Tianyang could now exert 70% of his power. Xuaningxiang recovered long ago and spent her time playing with the burrowing mouse. Both of them were happy seeing her smile again, thinking of her like a little sister. Xuaningxiang too started to feel more dependent on the two. Whoosh! 100 meters away from the cave, Xie Tianyang hacked a rock as he smiled towards Xuaningxiang not far away. He clearly recovered to 80%. Xuaningxiang clapped excitedly alongside the burrowing mouse. Zhuo Fan walked over with a smile, "Nice power you have there. You should enter the 8th layer of bone tempering stage soon. Didn't you also enter the 7th layer of qi condensation after your wounds healed?" Xie Tianyang clipped, "Besides, Zhuo Fan, how can your eyes be that good? To detect me breaking through before I do?" Xuaningxiang waved her hand to placate them, "Why are you always arguing when you meet each other? You weren't like this before. Isn't it his fault?" Xie Tianyang stuck out his chest and cursed Zhuo Fan, "After all this time, I still can't forgive this brat for using Ning'er as bait. How can I not be pissed? What arguing, I'm itching to give him a beating. Pot calling the kettle black. Who was it that said to dump her and stall the 7th elder?" Zhuo Fan countered. "I never." Xie Tianyang was at a loss, but soon recovered his courage. "I didn't know Ning'er was so great, alright? Moreover, it's far better than being used as bait. I'm a demonic cultivator. It's normal to be more immoral than a righteous cultivator like you." "Immoral? You're a bloody criminal by comparison." Seeing Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang quarreling over her, Xuaningxiang gestured for them to stop. "Come on, don't argue, it's all in the past. I don't care anymore, so why are you bringing it up?" "No, I want to give you justice." Xie Tianyang grabbed her shoulders while glaring at the smiling Zhuo Fan. "It's alright, we are friends who braved through life and death together. It's water under the bridge." Xuaningxiang showed a smile at the two and extended a pinky. Xie Tianyang smiled wryly and was hesitant in extending his pinky, but he did nonetheless. He was followed by an indifferent Zhuo Fan. The three pinkies touched and they started to feel warm and fuzzy inside. Finding a close friend in life was hard, but finding one to brave death alongside oneself was even harder. From now on, they would never abandon each other, no matter what. Zhuo Fan suspected he'd be hard-pressed to find any closer friends in this life. As they took back their respective fingers, Zhuo Fan smiled, "Now that we have recovered, we will each go our own way." Startled, the two didn't understand why he'd say this. Zhuo Fan shook his head, "Sorry, that was my mistake. I want to leave." Chapter 69, Savage Clash. Chapter 69, Savage Clash. The forest in Allbeast Mountain Range's third area was so thick it blotted out the sun. It was also packed with vicious spiritual beasts that roared at any passing moment. It painted such a gruesome picture that struck terror in any who were intent in setting foot inside. Suddenly, a low bush stirred despite the lack of wind. Zhuo Fan's party stuck to the ground as they crawled, making use of the bushes as cover. They did take energy-concealing pills, but unlike the previous areas, if any spiritual beast saw them here, it spelled doom. As such, this was the only viable way to advance, moving at a crawl 3,000 miles inland. With each roar and cry, fear struck, soaking their brows with sweat. "Blast it! We'll never get anywhere crawling like this." After half a day of wiggling through 10 miles, Xia Tianyang complained and sat with arms crossed, "I'm not doing it anymore. It's too lame. Besides, you think a 5th-level spiritual beast lies at every corner? Fool, get down before it's too late." Zhuo Fan cursed. Xia Tianyang smirked in disdain, "How will that help? With how tall the fauna is here, you think they'll spot us at a glance?" Roar. In reply to his disdain, a reverberating roar deafened the trio. They turned to see 5 towering trees being pushed to the ground. A 50-meter-tall black bear appeared. Seeing its meal, the black bear roared with bared fangs and bloodthirsty eyes. 4th-level spiritual beast, Mad Storm Bear. Zhuo Fan cried as the trio shook in fear. Xia Tianyang was even rooted in place. Before the bear could jump on its prey, a tail thick as a bucket coiled around its body. The bear was squeezed and thrown into the heavens above as its pitiful cry grew faint. When it came back down, a maw opened wide and swallowed it whole. As the maw closed, blood sprayed in the surroundings, forming a pool beneath it. Even Zhuo Fan felt a shiver of fear. That was a 30-meter-long python with a scarlet crest and rock-hard scales. Its cold eyes flashed, on the prowl for the next meal. 5th-level spiritual beast, Diamond Crest Python. "Run!" Zhuo Fan yelled as he sped up his crawling, and the other two worked to catch up. Even Xia Tianyang disregarded his sorry state and crawled with them. He came face to face to the horrors of this area. One slip and he was a goner. It was plainly obvious why even a radiant stage expert would die here. When the Diamond Crest Python ate the bear, because of its bulk, it didn't notice the trio and left after its meal. "Damn you, Zhuo Fan. I must have been insane for agreeing to come with you to this hell." Xia Tianyang worked his all not only to crawl but also to complain on and on, afraid he would soon lose his life without venting. He was on the verge of tears. He had heard this place was savage, but not to this extent. If he'd try to even stand taller than waist height, he'd soon find danger setting its sights on him. Zhuo Fan mocked, "No one told you to come. Why don't you crawl your way back?" Xia Tianyang was looking at the sky. "Curses, the sun is setting. Nocturnal spiritual beasts will be on the hunt soon, and crawling won't work against them. I'll be dead in a second. Better stick to Zhuo Fan. He would set up an array and no spiritual beast would wander in." Annoyed, Xia Tianyang had an edge in his voice, "Since I'm in the same boat as you, once I wander back it will be plain suicide." Zhuo Fan and Xuaningxiang shook their heads. Then the trio's schedule was crawling by day and ducking under an array at night. And after a month they finally crawled through 3,000 miles till their limbs and waist went sore. The good news was that the closer they got, the fewer the spiritual beasts spotted. Zhuo Fan knew they entered the territory of those 6th-level spiritual beasts, where no weaker beast would dare step a paw in. In the third area, 6th-level spiritual beasts were kings. If they found some oblivious beastie wandering into their domain, they'd chase it even for 1,000 miles, all to preserve a king's dignity. Especially if humans were involved. Stretching and exhaling, Zhuo Fan felt a bit better. Despite his relaxed manner, Xia Tianyang had his eyes peeled as he cautiously rose to his feet. "We can stand here?" Zhuo Fan nodded with a smile. "On our way here, there were too many eyes and ears on the lookout for any movement, so we crawled to avoid the spiritual beasts. Here though is the domain of 6th-level spiritual beasts. Hiding will be much more effective than crawling in this place." Xia Tianyang finally found safety for the first time in a month and smiled. "So it's much safer here than other places?" Zhuo Fan arched an eyebrow. "You can say that, but we'll die even faster bumping into a 6th-level spiritual beast." Xia Tianyang's smile vanished and his tone held some bite. "Then what the hell are we doing here? Tame them?" "How?" Zhuo Fan smiled with confidence. He had considered this point a long time ago. He came to such a deadly place as the third area with a plan. He only needed to slip a bloodworm into the Thunder Skylark and all was well. But the problem was how. Rumble. Zhuo Fan was cooking up a plan when a sudden noise shook the world. The trio felt the earth shaking beneath their feet. They blinked in shock. This had to be from another devastating clash of spiritual beasts. But throughout their crawling, never had they heard a sound so loud. Not even when 2 5th-level spiritual beasts fought. There could only be one answer. 6th-level spiritual beasts. They shouted in unison. "It seems to be coming from that direction." Zhuo Fan ran straight for it while Xia Tianyang yelled nervously, "Those beasts will tear you to pieces." Zhuo Fan smirked. If one of them was the Thunder Skylark, it'd be perfect. He'd lay in wait and make use of the perfect opportunity to strike. Xuaningxiang remained quiet and followed him closely. Wherever Zhuo Fan went, she would be close by. So, Xia Tianyang had no choice but to join them. 15 minutes later, the trio heard a thunderclap in the sky and the roaring flames. The three huddled behind a large rock in a small valley and peeked above. But the sight took their breath away. 2 spiritual beasts flew high up, both 6th-level spiritual beasts. One was a deep blue-colored bird with a 15-meter-long body and a wingspan of 20 meters. Lightning traveled along its body as it cracked the air. Despite being smaller in size, even compared with a 5th-level spiritual beast, its every wing beat covered the sky in lightning and wind blades that struck the rocks in the valley to pieces. A 5th-level spiritual beast would be crushed by such display. Thunder Skylark. Zhuo Fan squinted. He didn't lie to me. Thunder Skylark's nest is here. He then turned to the other spiritual beast. It was a flying lion wreathed in scarlet flames. Its mane was on fire and it had 30-meter-long wings of flames, half as long as his body. A flap of its wings sent fire to engulf the skies and burn the whole valley to a crisp. 6th-level spiritual beast, Flaming Lion King. Zhuo Fan's heart tightened. The Flaming Lion King was as powerful as a 7th-level spiritual beast, putting the Thunder Skylark at a disadvantage. He had thought that if the Thunder Skylark was tangled with another 6th-level spiritual beast, he'd play the fisherman and make the bird swallow a bloodworm during the confusion. Pity that it was facing Flaming Lion King. The Thunder Skylark would likely be defeated and killed. But wouldn't that bore a large hole in his plans? No, I have to help it. But how? This savage battle is no different than a Radiant stage expert's fight. Getting involved will only get me killed. Boom! As Zhuo Fan was musing a plan, the two beasts clashed again. Flaming Lion King spat a fireball while Thunder Skylark sent a thunderstorm with a flap of its wings, intending to crush it. But then, Flaming Lion King rammed its huge body into the frail Thunder Skylark. The bird cried out and tumbled around in the air. Zhuo Fan secretly sighed. Sure enough, the Thunder Skylark was just as adept at using her attribute like the Flaming Lion King, but her body lacked power in contrast. It would die if this went on. Big brother Zhuo, can you help the poor birdie? Xuaningxiang turned her puppy eyes to him. Zhuo Fan was this close to spewing blood. Birdie? Well, it does belong to the swallow type, but it's a spiritual beast nonetheless. Regardless, just how exactly is that thing small? But Xuaningxiang's pleas echoed his thoughts. The Thunder Skylark must survive. Chapter 70, Divine Azure Flame. Chapter 70, Divine Azure Flame. Ninger, we can't just interfere in a battle of 6th-level spiritual beasts. Xuaningxiang felt regret the moment she spoke up. Over these few months, Xia Tianyang never refused any of her wishes. Ignoring the fact that our strength is not nearly enough, just from how fiercely these 6th-level spiritual beasts are clashing, one can tell it is not over food, but territory. You couldn't interfere even if they were people, not knowing who is wrong or right. We can't just risk our lives for them. Zhuo Fan lifted an eyebrow as he gave Xia Tianyang a deeper look. In the end, he comes from the 7 houses and knows what battles between great powers implies. If I didn't need the Thunder Skylark so badly, I wouldn't get involved either. But Xuaningxiang's expression was filled with worry, but that birdie isn't fighting over territory, it's to protect her young. Zhuo Fan looked again and saw a nest below the Thunder Skylark holding 5 huge eggs. Flaming Lion King was powerful enough, but the Thunder Skylark's speed was astonishing. It could leave just like that if it wanted to, but the Lion King caught it between a rock and a hard place, battering it again and again until it was filled with wounds, all because it was worried about harming her eggs. Now that Zhuo Fan got the whole picture, he hatched a plan to help the Thunder Skylark. She is one big mother. Zhuo Fan sighed, Ninger, worry not. See how I get that birdie out of trouble. Xuaningxiang became overjoyed while Xia Tianyang was skeptical. Hypocrite, since when were you so selfless? This guy has a callous heart and betrays his friends at a drop of the hat. Since when did he start sticking his head out for someone else, a savage beast no less? Oh, Xia Tianyang, how can you understand me? I am in fact a man with love in his heart. Wait for a bit, I will need your help soon. Screw you. If you have love, I'm a saint. Xia Tianyang retorted in derision, but then he said in shock, I got it. You want the Thunder Skylark? Zhuo Fan perked an eyebrow and nodded, ha ha ha, you've started using your head more since teaming up with me. Curses. I almost got used by you, again. Xia Tianyang spat, if you want to get the Thunder Skylark, leave me out of it. Zhuo Fan shrugged, then gave Xuaningxiang a long look. Xuaningxiang nodded and showed her doe eyes as she shook Xia Tianyang's arm, Big brother Xia, go with big brother Zhuo. The birdie and her young are so pitiful. Xia Tianyang felt like crying. The birdie is pitiful. One flap from it will tear me apart. Why aren't you feeling sorry for me? Lacking any choice in the matter, Xia Tianyang nodded. He was still feeling guilty for what happened to Xuaningxiang and would agree to any of her requests. At his nod, Xuaningxiang exploded into a sparkling smile and Zhuo Fan grinned at the side. Zhuo Fan, watch it. If you throw me away, I will make you pay. Xia Tianyang glared, but Zhuo Fan just shook his head, take it easy, when I use someone I make sure they won't ever get the chance to come back to bite me. What? Xia Tianyang exclaimed. Zhuo Fan just laughed and patted his shoulder. After warning Xuaningxiang to hide and not get discovered, Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang sneaked towards the eggs. The two were able to sneak thanks to the energy-concealing pill. As the beasts raged, lightning and flames collided, rocking the valley like a boat. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang crept up cautiously below the raging storm. Each time the boom drew closer, it gripped their hearts in a vice and soaked their brows with sweat. One stray fireball or lightning could become the end for them both. Luckily enough, they reached the eggs without a scratch. Below the Thunder Skylark, it was both the most dangerous and safest place. What now? Xie Tianyang looked above at the flashing figures engaged in a fierce battle. Zhuofan explained his plan with a smile, while the Thunder Skylark isn't paying attention, we will hide the eggs. When it finds out that its eggs are gone, it will no longer fight and rush to search for its young. Since it is faster than the lion, we will thus save its life. Good plan. Xie Tianyang spoke in a low voice and gave him a thumbs up. Zhuofan then indicated to lift the nest together. While the heavens were swept by a storm, two bandits were making away with the entire nest from right under everyone's noses. Seeing this, Xuaningxiang sported a wide smile. Suddenly, Flaming Lion King gained altitude, breaking away from the bird while the Thunder Skylark kept a closer eye on its movements. As Zhuofan was carrying the nest, he found that the shadows on the ground were much bigger and that the sky had turned silent. Startled, he stopped and looked up. He was met with the large eyes of the Flaming Lion King. He also noticed that the lion's eyes were ridiculing him. Zhuofan shouted in panic, "That savage found us, run." But the eggs, Xie Tianyang was nervous. "What eggs? Just throw them." Ignoring Xie Tianyang, Zhuofan tossed the nest and the 5 eggs to the ground. Since they were spiritual beast eggs, they wouldn't break so easily. Startled by Zhuofan's yell, the Thunder Skylark looked in time to see her 5 young thrown on the ground and rushed in anger. Boom! Then, a ball of fire passed close to the Thunder Skylark. The Flaming Lion King wasn't aiming for it but the 5 eggs. With a cry, the Thunder Skylark flew like lightning and used her body to block the fireball. Zhuofan let out a mental sigh. Not for Thunder Skylark's sacrifice, but the lion's cunningness. It knew that the Thunder Skylark was fast as lightning, which proved it difficult to land a heavy blow. But those eggs couldn't move and were the perfect means to cripple the Thunder Skylark's speed. Attacking what one defended was the best plan. The Flaming Lion King laughed in glee and spat another ball of flame. Thunder Skylark used her lightning to stop it, but, with the eggs scattered, another ball of fire was closing in on another egg. Thus she was forced to fly all over to defend them. The Flaming Lion King, which was hovering above, roared and sneered. We made it worse. We hastened the Thunder Skylark's end. Darting back to Xuaningxiang, Zhuofan sighed. Despite not liking it, he spoke with determination, let's go. If we wait for Thunder Skylark to die, the crazy lion will come after us. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang grabbed Xuaningxiang's arm, but she stood rooted to the spot, watching the Thunder Skylark darting to and fro as tears fell down her cheeks. Zhuofan sighed, he had no way to help the bird now. Let it go, Ninger. We need to leave. Zhuofan furrowed his brows and urged, but Xuaningxiang shook her head. Boom! After fending off 24 fireballs, the Thunder Skylark let out a mournful cry and fell tired and wounded in a large crater. The Flaming Lion King charged with its claw, aiming for the bird's throat. No! Xuaningxiang broke away from the two's grasp and rushed to defend the Thunder Skylark. The cold wind from Flaming Lion King's attack fanned her fine black hair. But her eyes remained unwavering. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang rushed over, alarmed. Both forgot that they would soon be 2 more corpses added to the pile, that it wouldn't make a difference. Even Zhuofan lost his calculative mind. The 3 only knew to not abandon the other. Ninger, I will accompany you in death. Xia Tianyang roared as he threw himself in front of her. Zhuo Fan flashed in front of the two, but his eyes were fixed on the flaming Lion King. He was the demonic emperor. Even in death, he would stare down his enemy. Dumb humans, your flesh won't stop this king's claw. The flaming Lion King opened its mouth and sneered. As its claw drew close, its killing intent made the trio shiver. But just when the claw was about to touch Zhuo Fan's face, an azure flame came out of Zhuo Fan's forehead and a shocking power shrouded the entire all-beast mountain range. The spiritual beasts were left shivering and lowered their proud heads. Even those fighting bent their knees. Flaming Lion King stopped its claw and watched the swaying flame as it trembled in fear. Chapter 71, Got an Egg. Chapter 71, Got an Egg. The azure flame was as small as a candle's, flickering in the wind in front of Zhuo Fan's forehead. But with each sway, the flaming Lion King's eyes shivered, as if it saw its end. It then took back its claw and sped away in the form of a ball of fire. It scampered off with speed rather than dignity, so much so that it was even close to falling at some point. A 6th-level spiritual beast, a king in the all-beast mountain range, was now fleeing like a kitty while trembling from every joint. Frowning, Zhuo Fan touched his forehead, but the azure flame had already hidden inside. He only felt a faint warmth and concluded that it was connected to the expert who had appeared in his consciousness and touched him there. Hey, Zhuo Fan, Xia Tianyang shook his arm as he questioned, be honest with me, are you absolutely positive that you are human? Cut the crap, what else would I be, a demon? Zhuo Fan slapped Xia Tianyang's hand away. I've never seen a human scare a 6th-level spiritual beast with just a look. Xia Tianyang took deep breaths to calm down and continued, did you see how scared it was when it saw you? As if afraid you would eat it whole. As brothers, you owe me an explanation. How many secrets are you hiding? Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes, then turned to Xuaningxiang, we were never brothers. Xia Tianyang froze, then he showed an awkward smile. But he was becoming more and more curious about Zhuo Fan. Coming next to Xuaningxiang, they saw her tear-stained face as she looked at the thunder skylark. The lion didn't take its life, but the birdie was too far gone to be saved. Unlike Xia Tianyang, she ignored the fleeing flaming Lion King and inspected the birdie's wounds. It won't make it. Zhuo Fan sent his Yuan Qi to check its state, then sighed. His plan on getting a thunder skylark went up in smoke. Big brother Zhuo, can you help her? Xuaningxiang looked at him with teary eyes, but he could only sigh. As a demonic emperor, he had plenty of ways, but the current him was weak. Xuaningxiang began crying her heart out, tears falling down the thunder skylark's face. The bird opened its eyes and looked elsewhere. Xuaningxiang noticed and spotted an egg not too far. But the egg was burnt black. The thunder skylark gave its all before but was incapable of stopping every fireball. It wants her young. Let's go find them. Xuaningxiang cried. Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang searched around and soon gathered 4 scorched and lifeless eggs. Wasn't there one more? Xuaningxiang nervously asked. The two shook their heads. The last one was lost. They couldn't find it anywhere. Xuaningxiang was sorrowful, kneeling before the thunder skylark as she sobbed, forgive us, we are the ones who hurt you. The thunder skylark was always watching the 4 scorched eggs with teary eyes. Then, her eyes flashed and moved her great body. From below her, the last egg rolled out. It was intact but still had a few scorch marks on it. Zhuo Fan looked long at the thunder skylark and secretly nodded. Despite being forced to run around by the flaming Lion King, it knew what it had to do. It made sure to protect one egg without anyone knowing. And when it collapsed, it used its body to hide the egg. So that even if it was killed, the egg would survive. It gave its life to protect its young. Thinking about this, Zhuo Fan developed a deep respect for the bird. With a cry, the The Thunder Skylark stared at Zhuo Fan, or, more specifically, his forehead. Then it turned to its egg with a hopeful gaze. "You want me to take it?" Zhuo Fan assumed. It nodded, eyes filled with warmth for the egg. Zhuo Fan picked it up and sighed. "It is badly burnt and, even if it hatches, it won't live for long. Unless..." He whispered the rest into the Thunder Skylark's ear. It was first startled, then nodded in gratitude. Turning to her young, the Thunder Skylark closed her eyes in peace. She could now rest easy knowing Zhuo Fan would look after it. Xuaningxiang saw its life fade away and was crying her heart out. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang sighed. They didn't foresee her being so compassionate even towards a spiritual beast. They would, at most, hold some respect, but never be so heartbroken about it. Ninger, it won't come back. Don't feel too sad about it." Zhuo Fan consoled. "Yeah, I never knew you'd be so compassionate towards this Thunder Skylark just after meeting it once." Xie Tianyang laughed dryly and scratched his head, not knowing how to comfort the girl. Xuaningxiang wiped her tears and nose. "Why, you guys misunderstood. It is a sad birdie, but I'm not crying for it. I was reminded of my home. Her appearance made me recall my dad protecting me every step of the way, taking care of me." The other two smiled dejectedly. It seems this girl was reminiscing. No wonder she was so touched. Since it's not for the bird, then I will take the Thunder Skylark's body." Zhuo Fan felt awkward as he stashed the body in his ring, but Xuaningxiang just nodded. Xie Tianyang, however, was aflame in anger. "Hey, why do you get to have a whole 6th-level spiritual beast's body?" A spiritual beast was a treasure in and of itself. The 6th-level spiritual beast bodies, in particular, made for great refining materials. Even the 7 houses seldom got such an item, and Xie Tianyang regarded it greatly. Looking askance at him, Zhuo Fan stated, "You saw it giving me its egg. Its body is the same. You stay here with Ninger, I'll be right back." He left before Xie Tianyang could argue. Xie Tianyang wanted to follow Zhuo Fan, but seeing Ninger, he stayed. He was worried for her safety. Leaving her all alone in the woods was not wise. Though it made little difference if he was there too. Whoosh! In a secluded spot, Zhuo Fan took out the egg, the Thunder Skylark's body, and some black rocks. He began circulating his yuan qi and his hand burned scarlet. This was a cultivator's most basic yuan qi flame. Weak in battle, but useful in refining. And those black rocks were spatial stones used in making storage rings. These rocks were very rare even with all the spatial rock mines in control of the 7 houses and the imperial family. But thanks to Veiled Dragon Pavilion and imperial family endorsing the Luo clan, he got his hand on a few. And right now, he was planning on refining a beast-holding ring. It was far more complex to refine than a storage ring, and the great sects had a tight lock on any refining methods regarding them. Furthermore, it could even store spiritual energy. As spiritual beasts were nurtured by the spiritual energy of the world, they were the best ingredient for refining items. Case in point, this egg came from the Thunder Skylark, and its spiritual energy would help it recover. If not for this, Zhuo Fan was unsure if he could even hatch it. Now that the Thunder Skylark was dead, he desperately needed to hatch the egg and make it his demonic creature in order to enter the Lightning Canyon. For this, Zhuo Fan spoke a few words to the dying Thunder Skylark. And it agreed once it knew its broken body could help her young live. Either way, this was Zhuo Fan's way of showing his respect for the mother. Also, he would have taken this course of action regardless of her decision. Zhuo Fan pointed and the flame towered, fusing the ingredients with high-speed hand signs and a smile of satisfaction. He was close to fulfilling his objective. In the dead of night, stars glittered with Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang watching them bored out of their mind. As this was Thunder Skylark's territory, no 6th-level spiritual beast would wander here. It was the safest place for them. A sound broke the silence and Zhuo Fan appeared next to them. Xuaningxiang ran to him in glee as Xie Tianyang looked him up and down. What did you do with the corpse? Shrugging, Zhuo Fan was blunt, tore it in 8 and used it. Xuaningxiang was startled by his reply and Xie Tianyang rushed to placate her. Ninger, it's all right. The bodies of spiritual beasts are handled like this. But I don't know what he refined using it. Xie Tianyang knew Zhuo Fan was an array master and an alchemist, so being a refiner on top wasn't that far-fetched. As Zhuo Fan was gone for a day, he assumed Zhuo Fan had refined something. Hey, did you know today is Ninger's 16th birthday? She was reminded of her family when the Thunder Skylark protected her egg and it made her cry. Zhuo Fan took a long look at Xuaningxiang, who was blushing with a lowered head. Ha ha ha, since it's her birthday, then I will give her a present. Zhuo Fan revealed a ring that had lightning running across it. Then he took Xuaningxiang's hand and inserted the ring on her finger. This is the storage ring I refined from the Thunder Skylark, Thunder Ring. I have one and you the other. They both are made as one, and are connected with each other. Zhuo Fan raised his hand and sparks flashed across his ring. Xuaningxiang was overjoyed inside and blushed as she extended her fist with the ring on it. Zhuo Fan did the same with his hand and the two rings let out crackling sounds. Xie Tianyang was filled with envy and roared, Zhuo Fan, gee give me one too. I'm out. Zhuo Fan deadpanned, is it your damn birthday too? No, but you have to give me one. Or, the two of you, a pair of rings. Xie Tianyang's face burned hot. He no longer cared about the value of the Thunder Ring, but that Zhuo Fan and Xuaningxiang wore a unique pair of rings. Seeing through him, Zhuo Fan sighed inwardly, we've been through thick and thin together, so of course, I have one for you. Zhuo Fan then tossed him a ring. Xie Tianyang put it on in glee then made a fist bump with Xuaningxiang. Each of them got a thunder ring which would only react when another was around. Zhuo Fan spoke seriously, what gift did you give Ninger? Xie Tianyang started and scratched his head from having nothing of value on him. Suddenly, he turned to the burrowing mouse and pointed, Ninger likes playing with it, so I'm giving it to her. Get lost, it has long stopped being yours. Zhuo Fan jabbed. Xie Tianyang snapped in anger, isn't it all you're doing? The two began quarreling while Xuaningxiang stood content at the side with a smile. Absent-mindedly looking at the thunder ring, she wished the time would stop so that the three of them would stay worry-free. After a long night, they began their trek back first thing in the morning. But 10,000 miles out, a huge bird had its eye on each and every movement of theirs. Blue flames wreathed its body and with every flap of its wings, it flew deeper into the All-Beast mountain range. Chapter 72, Shui Clan Patriarch. Chapter 72, Shui Clan Patriarch. The trio returned to the second area using the same method as before. Then they soon arrived at the first area. With the first step into safety, their hearts started easing up. Their thunder rings flashed with lightning from how close they were. All that's left is to leave Blue Expanse City and we'll be safe. Zhuo Fan looked in the city's direction with a smile. Although he didn't obtain the Thunder Skylark, he earned much more, its egg and two dear friends in life and death moments. Xuaningxiang however was frowning, worry plaguing her heart, but we offended the seventh elder. Won't he set a trap for us? Unlikely. Zhuo Fan stated, he must have spared our lives because another greater danger was looming overhead forcing him to flee. He must be thinking we've died at the hands of that scary thing. Thing, what thing? Xie Tianyang asked. Zhuo Fan only shook his head. He was out like a light at that time and was unclear what happened. But when he woke up he saw the destruction around him and came to this conclusion. As for why they were luckily spared, ask heaven. In any case, sneaking out of the city is easy. Zhuo Fan smiled, Ninger, what will you do after we leave? I don't know. Xuaningxiang turned gloomy, but then she looked up at Zhuo Fan. Big brother Zhuo, I'll just go with you. Zhuo Fan started while Xia Tianyang became flustered and said, Ninger, how about you come with me, to Sword Marquise' abode? Not only will your clansmen not come for you, but even Hell Valley's people wouldn't be able to take you from us. Xuaningxiang happily nodded, all right. Big brother Zhuo, why don't you also come? I've never seen the strong 7 noble houses of the Tianyu Empire. Xia Tianyang wasn't too pleased about it, but since Ninger was happy he also relented. Zhuo Fan, for Ninger, I will extend an invitation to visit my house as a guest. Zhuo Fan looked at them for a moment and shook his head, I cannot. I have other places to be. If fortune smiles, we will see each other again. The two were startled and hesitant about parting. Though Xia Tianyang and Zhuo Fan were like fire and water, arguing every day, they went through hell together and came out as brothers. Hey, I truly welcome you to my house. Think of your brother, me, and come. Zhuo Fan snickered, I already said, we aren't brothers. Sigh, how can you? As Xia Tianyang was about to laugh it off, a crack was heard and a sudden pressure pushed down on them, no one is allowed to leave. Whoosh! A black figure appeared with long black and white hair. His long goatee fluttered in the wind, and his eyes flashed as they landed on the trio. Profound Heaven Expert. Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang were startled and protected Xuaningxiang with their bodies. Is it an elder from Hell Valley? I've never seen him. Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang whispered. What was certain though, this old man wanted to wring them dry. But then, Xuaningxiang jumped out from between them and walked cautiously towards the man, grandfather. Xia Tianyang was stumped while Zhuo Fan asked with a frown, your Shui clan's only profound heaven expert, Shui clan's patriarch, Shui Dingtian? Turning a blind eye to the rotten kids in front, Shui Dingtian looked over Xuaningxiang, Ninger, where did you run off these months? I looked all over for you. Xuaningxiang hung her head in guilt and mumbled, sorry for worrying you, grandfather. Shui Dingtian sighed and tousled his dear grandchild's hair then spat, did any of these runts misbehave? Xuaningxiang knew where this was going and was embarrassed, Grandpa, what are you saying? Humph, then all is good. Shui Dingtian rolled his eyes over Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang, who was it that hurt my grandson, Shui Gang? Him. Xia Tianyang didn't miss a beat in exposing Zhuo Fan, I only met Ninger after. I never saw your grandson. Rolling his eyes, Zhuo Fan could only blame his poor luck and friends, I didn't know he was Ninger's brother, so, please forgive the offense, senior. Then, you eloped with Ninger? Shui Dingtian questioned Zhuo Fan. What, elope? Xia Tianyang cried with a start and grabbed Zhuo Fan by the clothes. Zhuo Fan, explain it to me. Since when were you so close with Ninger? Shui Dingtian glanced at Xia Tianyang and turned towards his granddaughter. Who is that kid, to be even more pissed than me? Xuaningxiang glared at her grandpa, then hid her flaming cheeks with her hands. Grandpa is getting old, how could he mention something like that out of the blue? She was complaining inside but her eyes sneaked a peek at Zhuo Fan. Wait, don't misunderstand. I only asked Ninger to show me the way and nothing else. Zhuo Fan gesticulated while shouting. Only then did Xia Tianyang stop. Shui Dingtian stared down Zhuo Fan but seeing no lies, he spoke, good, in that case, I won't be hard on you on account on your time with my granddaughter. Come, Ninger, let's go home. Shui Dingtian pulled her. But Xuaningxiang turned to the two behind her. Xia Tianyang was getting anxious, wanting to stop them. Wait! Zhuo Fan shouted. Shui Dingtian spoke in a cold tone, is there something else, runt? You can't take Ninger, said Zhuo Fan with a stony expression, and I advise you don't return either. Shui Dingtian frowned, what do you mean by that? I'll be frank. We offended the 7th elder of Hell Valley and he recognized Ninger. I can guess he's now getting rowdy in the Shui clan. If you go back now, you will die. Shui Dingtian was startled, then looked to see Shui Ningxiang nodding shyly. As if thunderstruck, Shui Dingtian trembled and stumbled backward before falling. Shui Ningxiang started crying and rushed to her grandpa. Grandfather, forgive me. Shui Dingtian tightened his fist as rage swallowed his heart. Then his killing intent-filled eyes landed on Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang. It's you who brought this disaster upon us. As long as I take you to the seventh elder, he will spare us. Saying so, he slapped towards Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan's foot moved a bit, making two of his phantoms appear near him. Then they immediately retreated in different directions. Shui Dingtian scattered the three retreating figures to dust with a wave of his hand, but the real one wasn't among them. The next moment, Zhuo Fan came from behind Shui Dingtian and attacked with a bloody hand. Blood palm. Startled, Shui Dingtian felt his blood vessels boil. He now felt it on his own skin why his son and grandson had lost. Zhuo Fan wasn't only strong enough to skip stages, but also cunning and hard to fathom. Too bad he wasn't in the profound heaven stage like the old man. Shui Dingtian vanished before the blood palm could hit him, shocking Zhuo Fan. At the same instant, a powerful strike came from behind, and Zhuo Fan, who was unable to dodge in time, spat blood while flying. Shui Dingtian was about to pursue when a mystical sword intent came at him. It was Xia Tianyang wielding his star sword to strike Shui Dingtian's chest. As he looked at the approaching sword, the sky seemed to have calmed and he could only see the glittering sword moving. Profound ranked martial art. Shui Dingtian moved his foot slightly and disappeared, only to attack from Xia Tianyang's side with a palm. Xia Tianyang spatted blood and flew due to the impact. It was thanks to his spiritual armor that he wasn't heavily wounded. Zhuo Fan and Xia Tianyang staggered to their feet. A profound heaven expert's power wasn't to be taken lightly. Without an array, they had no chance. That brief exchange from before lasted but a breath and the outcome was a foregone conclusion. The two couldn't even touch a profound heaven expert. Chapter 73, Cauldron. Chapter 73, Cauldron. Stop, cried Shui Ningxiang. Shui Dingtian turned towards his granddaughter and was startled to see her in tears with a dagger at her neck. What are you doing, Ninger? Shui Dingtian became nervous. Shui Ningxiang spoke between sobs, Grandpa, let them go, they're my friends. If I do, then our Shui clan will be no more. Shui Dingtian stepped towards Zhuo Fan with hatred and killing intent. Grandpa, take one more step and I will be leaving this world before you. Shui Ningxiang nervously pushed the dagger closer to her throat. Blood began to trace the blade. Don't. Xia Tianyang was frightened, but Shui Dingtian gnashed his teeth and pressed on. However, Zhuo Fan noticed the tears in the old man's eyes. Zhuo Fan laughed, ha ha ha, Shui Dingtian, you've gotten senile. You think taking us to the seventh elder will save Shui clan? It will only hasten your downfall. What are you saying? Shui Dingtian stopped and stared at Zhuo Fan. Sneering, Zhuo Fan turned to Xia Tianyang, do you know who this is? He's from Sword Marquise Abode. By handing him over to the Hell Valley, you will make one of the 7 houses into your enemy. Do you think you can handle their wrath and prevent the downfall of your second-rate clan? Shui Dingtian became apprehensive, he spoke while scrutinizing Xia Tianyang, impossible, you are trying to play me. I would have known by now if someone from Sword Marquise Abode came to Blue Expanse City. 7 noble houses' disciples wander the world, so why should they report to you? Clear those muddy eyes of yours and take a closer look at his spiritual weapon, his martial arts. Are they common? Even in the 7 houses, such a masterful disciple is rare. A chill shook his very core and Shui Dingtian staggered back a few steps. He knew that was a 4th-grade spiritual weapon and the kid was using a profound ranked martial art. Who could wield both if not a man from the 7 houses? Having Xue Dingtian right where he wanted, Zhuo Fan drove in the last nail with a sneer. You want to take us back to Hell Valley when it's uncertain if they'll even accept us. But if they do, will the Sword Marquise Abode just let you go? Plop. Xue Dingtian lost all his nerve and collapsed in a shivering mess. The Xue clan was under Hell Valley, but never would they think to step between the conflicts of the 7 houses. If it ever happened, the Hell Valley would toss them in front as cannon fodder. Xue Dingtian began to feel mournful and lost. This year is a disaster for Xue clan. Do we have no other choice but to die at the hands of one of the 7 houses? He could take these runts with him, but he wouldn't want them now even if they landed in his lap. Why, young masters, forgive this old man's rash behavior. I was blind to young master's identity. Xue Dingtian squeezed through clenched teeth and crouched before them to kowtow 3 times. Everyone was dumbfounded, while Zhuo Fan just took it all in with a critical eye. Xia Tianyang couldn't quite accept it and rushed over. Forgetting the fact he was Ning'er's grandfather, just being an aged profound heaven expert was enough to make Xia Tianyang unable to receive such a gesture. Would the profound heaven experts, elders in title, back at Sword Marquise Abode had to kneel too? But Zhuo Fan's hand barred his way. If you want to save Ning'er, show off your status. Zhuo Fan whispered, to which Xia Tianyang nodded with a bit of startle. Grandfather, get up. Xue Ningxiang had never seen her grandfather so humiliated and rushed to help him up. But then Zhuo Fan yelled, who told you to get up? Xue Dingtian shivered and was back on his knees with a red face. You. Xue Ningxiang was angry, but Xue Dingtian pulled her back. Zhuo Fan strutted before the old man and said in a clipped tone, do you know of our young master's eminent identity in the house? You hurt him today and us, the Sword Marquise Abode, will not let this go unpunished. Yes, I was ignorant in my offense. Xue Dingtian hung his head which was already full of cold sweat. Humph, then we will take Ning'er. If you want to get her back, have the Xue clan or Hell Valley come for her at Sword Marquise Abode. Wait. Zhuo Fan was about to leave when Xue Dingtian grabbed his ankle. It doesn't matter if Ning'er offended the 7th elder, but she cannot leave. Even demonic cultivators rose the flag of righteousness, vowing to wipe such filth from the world. That was one of the rare occasions in which the 2 paths joined. Luck had it that Zhuo Fan was among them, witnessing this force on the move. He learned then not to incur public hatred if he wasn't the strongest. That was also why he trained in the dark after getting the 9 Serenities secret records. Even now, despite having the demon transformation art, which could raise his cultivation without a limit, he wasn't slaughtering left and right. If he'd get found out, he'd be the next target of both paths. Chapter 74, Flowing Metal Body Refining. Chapter 74, Flowing Metal Body Refining. The silence was deafening. It was so quiet that only cawing was heard. And even this noise only worked to darken the mood. Ning'er. Xue Dingtian turned serious as he said, if what this young master said is true, it's best if you leave. Grandfather, Xue Ningxiang looked at him in tears. Xue Dingtian smiled, don't worry, I'll go back and find out the truth. If it isn't like what this young master said, then I will come back to get you and proceed with the marriage. He ruffled her hair and flew away. Watching his departing figure, Xue Ningxiang sniffed in tears. Big brother Zhuo, will my grandfather be all right? Zhuo Fan's conjectures were always spot on and Xue Ningxiang wished to know her grandfather's fate. She wanted him to say her grandfather would be fine, that her clan would be fine. But Zhuo Fan shook his head. I'm sorry, if he doesn't return, your clan still might live for a while. But now, all of them will die. Xue Ningxiang was shocked to the core and tears never stopped falling. Xia Tianyang began cursing to hide his sadness, Hey, you're not that damn insidious demon's match in reading people, so how can you say they'll all die if he returns? I think a profound heaven expert would make the insidious demon think twice. Humph, that is where you're wrong. I may not be as sharp as him when it comes to picking up one's intentions, but we are all humans, and I can tell a thing or two of his actions. First, we offended him, and since he determined the identity of Xueningsiang during our fight, he would think that the Xue clan betrayed Hell Valley. He is bound to kill them to the last woman and child. But at that time, old man Xue came to find Ning'er. In this case, Zhuo Fan paused then sighed, until he knew the whereabouts of the profound heaven expert, he would keep them alive to draw your grandfather. Once old man Xue returns, there will be nothing holding him back. Bullshit. A profound heaven expert is an elder in the 7 houses. I don't believe he has such nerve to slaughter a profound heaven expert's entire clan. Xia Tianyang saw Xueningsiang's expression turn darker and roared at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan shook his head, exactly because Xue clan has a profound heaven expert he would wait for Xue Dingtian to return before wiping them all off. In addition, you're wrong about something. A profound heaven expert is not strong at all, but a free one is. Why do you think he kneeled before us? He didn't do it for the 2 of us, but for the sword Marquise Abode behind you. He didn't kneel for himself either, but for the Xue clan. If he were a rogue cultivator, free of responsibility, killing us would be a matter of fact. But, Xia Tianyang wanted to retort but found nothing to refute him with. He knew of this all too well, but the sorrowful look on Xueningsiang pushed him to find her some solace. But Zhuo Fan's words stabbed Xueningsiang's frail heart like a dagger. At this point, Xia Tianyang wanted to punch him. Alright, stop fighting. Xueningsiang shouted, Big brother Zhuo, I know what you said is reasonable. Tell me then, if I go back as a cauldron, can I save my clan? Xia Tianyang was appalled. Ning'er, don't. Zhuo Fan looked her in the eye, but all he saw was an unwavering will and nodded. Even the magnificent and grand 7th elder of Hell Valley has no other way to train in that martial art. From this, it is obvious how much the Hell Valley lacks cauldrons. Doing this is likely to work, but there is no but as long as it works. Xueningsiang waved and breathed out as if to get out all the worries off her chest. She was smiling, but the 2 felt their hearts heavy from the tears flowing down Xueningsiang's cheeks. Big brother Zhuo, Big brother Tianyang, thank you for taking care of me these past months. We shall part ways, just that, Xueningsiang sniffed, I've never once gone outside the city, never seen sword Marquise Abode. It's my only regret. She waved with a smile and left. Xia Tianyang's eyes were tinted red. They both knew what this girl was about to do. Ning'er. Xia Tianyang stepped forward, but Xueningsiang's delicate voice reached them before he could take a second, please don't try to use force. I know I am not your match, but I will hate you for all my life and will never listen to you 2 again. Xia Tianyang fell to his knees and watched her distancing figure in pain. Hey, Zhuo Fan, Ning'er left. Can she save Xue clan? He asked gloomily. For some time. Zhuo Fan shook his head, his face serene. Once Ning'er's use as cauldron expires, Xue clan would have outlived its usefulness. Why did you let her leave then? Xia Tianyang bit his lip until he drew blood as his words were spoken with an edge. Zhuo Fan stared him in the eye, at least. Ning'er will leave this world at peace, believing her clan will be kept safe. Bastard! Bam! Xia Tianyang stood up and punched Zhuo Fan's face and sent him 10 meters flying. You betrayed Ning'er again. Roaring, Xia Tianyang rushed after Xueningsiang. What are you going to do? Zhuo Fan wiped the blood from his mouth and stood up. I'm going to save her. Xia Tianyang was dead serious. Just you? Zhuo Fan jabbed, how can a bone-tempering cultivator fight against a profound heaven expert? You saw what happened just now. You know the difference between the bone-tempering stage and profound heaven stage. It's not just about being unable to fly but also about speed. So what? Tightening his fists, Xia Tianyang spat, it's better than doing nothing like you. We clearly had the chance to end that insidious demon last time. Last time we had the element of surprise and an array in place. In an array, no matter how fast he is, we can deal with him. But how will I set an array now? Are you telling me to set one right under his nose, then ask him to kindly step inside? Xia Tianyang understood the meaning behind Zhuo Fan's words but couldn't accept his manner. Ninger fought through life and death with them and now Zhuo Fan was just going to sit there and do nothing. Zhuo Fan, I always knew there was no worth in trusting you. But as a man, good or bad, they are duty-bound to fulfill their promise. You promised to take Ninger out, and if you don't, you'll be nothing more than a coward. Roaring, Xia Tianyang sped up in his rush. If you go you can only watch, powerless to do anything. I will still go. I would rather die than be a coward. Watching Xia Tianyang chasing Ninger, Zhuo Fan tightened his fists and muttered, who said I'm any different? Then he turned around and entered the forest. In a cave, 15 minutes later, Zhuo Fan set up a concealing array then drew an odd pattern on the ground and placed spirit stones at key locations. Then he spread diamond sand across the entire pattern. Finally, his hand flashed and a pair of wings with streaks of lightning across them appeared in the center of this pattern. This was a secret body refining art from the 9 Serenities secret records. It would make use of demon transformation art to refine the ingredients and transform one's flesh into diamond body. This was far crueler than the wraith art he gave to Captain Pang. Wraith art was a cultivation method for humans to refine their body, but this secret art treated the human body as a medium in refining it just like a demonic treasure. The results were outstanding of course, invincible and tough as steel. But the process was excruciating, 1,000 times more miserable than the wraith art. To imagine, this process involved cutting one's body inch by painful inch if one wanted to refine his body with ingredients suited for demonic treasures. It was so dreadful that one would find death a blessing. In the past, before he even found the 9 Serenities secret records, Zhuo Fan wouldn't train in wraith art even if he had it. Because it was too inhuman, too brutal, despite how much strength it gave back. And here he was using a method even more excruciating and dangerous. But this was also the only way he could improve his strength in a short time. If he wasn't stronger than that cunning and deceitful insidious demon, his success wasn't certain. With his heart at peace, his eyes filled with resolve, Zhuo Fan made a hand sign. In an instant, the strange pattern shined brightly and started to churn. As it spun, the diamond sand trickled towards a small vortex in the center and entered inside the cross-legged body of Zhuo Fan. Chapter 75, Spirit and Body Refining. Chapter 75, Spirit and Body Refining. Speck by diamond speck sunk into Zhuo Fan's body as the array turned. The sand acted like minute needles boring through his muscles and drawing blood. All diamond sand that touched him pierced his body, with no exception. 1 or 2 specks, he could bear, but 100, 1,000, they were beginning to take its toll on him and all this while he could only gnash his teeth. When the number reached millions, his whole body was soaked in blood. And this blood all came from pin-sized holes left behind by the diamond speck, akin to a very fine sieve. Looking closely, the diamond sand had ruined his muscles, turning them to mush. And this was only the beginning, yet the pain was so excruciating, worse than any torture, death by 1,000 cuts, quite literally. However, to speed up his increase in power, Zhuo Fan still bore through it with clenched teeth, unwilling to utter even a grunt. Fine sweat ran over his body, testament to the pain. Even the mighty demonic emperor was reduced to a shivering mess. Ah! Then, Zhuo Fan's eyes narrowed as he cried out, unable to endure another million specks piercing his skin and muscles. He yelled and howled from the pain, but knew he had to stop and soon closed his mouth shut. In his heart he knew, this body refining method would remake his entire body, from the inside out, replacing his all with diamond sand. So much so he would become an unbreakable diamond. But before that, he would have to endure this agony. Yet this was just the flesh, it would soon be followed by the bones and inner organs. Zhuo Fan could only grit his teeth and follow through. If not for wishing to save Xuaningxiang, he wouldn't have chosen this path no matter how amazing the result. Too cruel. The strange array never stopped revolving, feeding Zhuo Fan's body with diamond sand. After 2 long hours, his muscles were broken down to the last fragment, then the diamond sand continued on to pierce his bones. Ugh! Zhuo Fan shook from the pain and a grunt escaped his clenched teeth. Yelling would only amplify his suffering until he could take it no more. To avoid his demise, he forced his mouth shut while his eyes bulged out of his blanched face. Damn rotten decrepit senile 9 Serenities Emperor. How the hell did you come up with this insane refining method? The moment the diamond sand entered his bones, Zhuo Fan spasmed. He couldn't even speak, so he cursed the first demon emperor of ages past in his mind. Had the demon emperor heard, his reply would be mockery, "Did I push your hand? Who lied to you that a meager thing like you can succeed?" Suddenly Zhuo Fan's body seized up 1 second and laid limp the next. His skeleton was turned to dust in that instant. Such pain filled his eyes with tears, but he was now nothing more than a pile of mush. And all he could do was lie paralyzed on the ground. There's also the last step, body remodeling. Zhuo Fan was sweating bullets as he sucked in a deep breath through gritted teeth. With his skeleton nothing more than a bone meal, the diamond sand burrowed deep into his organs. It didn't wait to stick to them like before but punched right through them. Zhuo Fan's organs were shredded and he was spewing blood mixed with flesh again and again. The blood seeped into the strange array and fused with it. Yet despite the constant flow of blood and the sweat and the pain, his lips curled into a sinister grin. I have prevailed. Now only body remodeling is left. Zhuo Fan's smile was wiped away by a wail. Ah! It didn't go as planned. The diamond sand finished with his organs and went for his brain. Be it a mortal or cultivator, the brain was the weakest for both, as it was the place that housed one's soul. Diamond sand was raining havoc in his very soul, his mind. Once it was gone, his death would be final. He felt as if thousands of ghosts were assailing him, a pain down to the bottom of his core. It was thousands of times crueler than the first step. But unlike before, when his mind was clear, the pain was now eating away at his consciousness. His soul was slowly being spent and was on the verge of shattering. And all he could do was wait for his demise. Ha ha ha, for me, the grand demonic emperor, to die at my own hands. How ironic. If only I knew how wretched this body refining method was. Zhuo Fan chastised himself as he grew weaker. All this while, the strange array never stopped spinning, and the remaining diamond sand on it was soaked in his blood, but he was too far gone to even care. He was hanging by a thread, one that thinned by the second. What struck him as odd was, why did he have to refine his body through this hellish torture? I must have gone insane. Why did I use this deviant secret art? Zhuo Fan shut his eyes with a trace of regret, as his life flashed before his eyes. Since he became a demonic cultivator, he overcame all trials bearing his path, becoming the leader of the 8 emperors in the sacred domain, the first below a saint, a path filled with glory. Then he gained the 9 Serenities secret records, bringing him further joy, and though his disciples sold him out, he was reborn in the Luo clan, as a steward. Then he met Xie Tianyang and Xuaningxiang. Xuaningxiang. Xuaningxiang, Zhuo Fan's lips cracked open, muttering her name in his delirium. Then he flashed his eyes open and yelled, Ninger. He recalled why he chose this path. It was to save her. At that moment, the strange array spun faster and faster, encompassing everything in it in arcane power. Zhuofan's forehead released a blue flame that turned into tendrils and enveloped his body, to ultimately fuse into the strange array. Zhuofan had no clue that this secret body refining method didn't just refine the body, but one's spirit too. Its purpose was to unearth all potential of a cultivator. If only the body was refined through this method, failure was guaranteed and death was a certainty. When Zhuofan was nearing death, he woke up to the reason behind his choice, and his will to live thrummed with power. It resonated with his soul and allowed the blue flame in his body to fuse with the array. It was only now that this strange array displayed its true power. The array spun so fast that it kicked up a storm. It soon turned blue from the flame and melted the diamond sand before fusing it with Zhuofan's blood, flowing throughout his body. Golden blood soothed Zhuofan's lacerated body, breathing life into his muscles, bones, and organs. The blue flame returned to his forehead once the process was complete and fused with his soul. Zhuofan kept his eyes closed, unaware of what happened outside. He only felt his life renewing and growing with every passing moment. All this time, Blood Infant sat cross-legged in his dantian. Seeing the incoming golden blood, it was filled with ecstasy, swallowing as much as it could. It began to alternate between fading in and out of reality, to ultimately turn into a golden infant. It opened its eyes and they flashed golden, filled with vigor. Thanks to the blue flame, the pair of wings which streaked with lightning, were turned into liquid and entered Zhuofan. In a blink, an image of a pair of blue wings appeared on his back with lightning flashing across them. Deep in the Allbeast mountain range, high up a mountain, laid a cave. And from this cave came the shocked voice of a strong middle-aged man. How come the azure flame I gave the kid is now gone? Did he remove it, or did he take control over it? Then laughter came from deep within the cave. Ha ha ha, I must be getting old. For that kid to erase it is already impossible, so how could he refine it? Not even a saint stage expert can receive my azure flame. Although, if he really removed it, how will I find him? Well, he'll come around sooner or later, ha ha ha. The man laughed in his cave, and the sound traveled for hundreds of miles, but there was no spiritual beast around to hear it. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.